always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to yet another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. I just want to say I feel like 2026 is living up to the hype so far. Got quite a bit going on. Interesting stuff coming from Team Trump and, of course, from the administration. Be happy, don't know why, but Rumble is making me have to search for Zak this week. That's strange. I don't know why. Make sure you're still subscribed. Oh, and I forgot to do something very important. And I forgot to get myself a drink. Lisa's not here. I'm a mess today, guys. Let me just... Once Lisa gets here with dinner, hopefully she'll be happy to bring me an energy drink. Actually, you know what? I'll be right back. Give me 2 seconds. All right, I'm back. Sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn, because we're going to get into it right about now. All right, gang. Well, let me just say, for the very first time last night, I saw silver trading in the triple digits. Now, if you go and take a look at the spot price of silver right now, it's currently sitting at $87.68, somewhere around there, close to $88. That's pretty standard for where it's been like the last week or so. But 2026 American Silver Eagles are currently $99.17. Graded Silver Eagles are nearly $110 a piece. And this ties in perfectly to the very first story I wanted to bring you guys today. So take a look at this. I need to get my tabs in alignment. All right. So first of all, the Chicago Metals Exchange has just increased the margin requirements on gold and silver futures. This ties directly into what we spoke about yesterday with all of these short positions having to be called, which means that these banks are going to be tremendously on the hook for hundreds of dollars above the actual value of silver, because they were all betting on silver to crash. And that hasn't happened. Demand has not slowed. People continue to purchase. And even though the silver market has been massaged artificially for many, many years, it is now quickly reaching the point where banks are unable to devalue it and keep the price artificially low. So what this means is that instead of a fixed dollar amount for silver and gold futures contracts, banks and purchasers of these future contracts are now going to be required to pay a percentage of the notional value of the contract, which means that the amount of the contract is going to be significantly higher than what it was before. So it means that they are now required to produce collateral, and that will scale with the price. So if the price rises sharply, the short sellers who have been attempting to keep these prices low, they're betting on the decline in silver. They're going to have to pay out higher margins, and potentially that may trigger margin calls and forced buying, as we were speaking about yesterday with these banks. And that would, of course, amplify the price of silver and gold. And it's looking to me like we've reached that point where precious metals are going to go significantly higher. People have been saying for decades that silver and gold were going to go to the moon. Gold has risen significantly in just the last 10 years. It's been absolutely insane. But this very recent quick movement upward on the price of silver has been pretty awesome as well. It still is devalued based upon where it should be. But if you were to look at silver margin requirements, the price of a contract in late December was $25,000. That's when it was just a set price. 4 days later, the price of a contract was risen to $32,500. Now, as of today, the price of a silver contract is $38,250. Now, this means that the cost of these contracts are 5% gold and 9% silver increases. And this will continue to rise if the price of these futures contracts continue to rise. Now, this came out of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. This also is going to apply to platinum and palladium. So the entire host of precious metals. Now, this is particularly interesting given what we've spoken about recently with the events taking place in Venezuela, because they have tremendous reserves of both silver and gold and a whole host of other rare earth elements. But take a look at this. Scott Bessent, U.S. Treasury Secretary, is apparently having meetings with the finance ministers of some critical mineral deposits. And that, in my mind, looks like the U.S. Treasury might be set to make some big moves on precious metals. If we are finally going to peg the price of the U.S. dollar at some hardcore commodities, like once again going back to the gold and silver standard, right now would be the time to do it, considering this quick upward movement in price. Because if we can continue this, then obviously that's going to significantly increase the value of the American dollar. Now, inflation is down. The Fed is under attack. As we learned several years ago, the Fed, in one form or another, was brought under the purview of the U.S. Treasury Department. That's really given us nothing of substance up until this point. But now that Jerome Powell is under investigation, well, there may be some breaking news in the very near future. So I am definitely following the gold, silver, and other precious metals markets eagerly. I haven't been able to purchase any precious metals for the last couple of years, but, you know, I'm glad I have what I have. So it is what it is. Now, we also have big news in the world of artificial intelligence, and this should be something that resonates with a lot of people. Oh, also, let me say thank you so much to DoomChick73, who before I even went live today, she donated about $53 in Bitcoin using the Rumble wallet over there on Rumble. That's obviously very, very helpful. And you, DoomerChick73, you are helping to keep this show on the air. I really do appreciate it. And I just wanted to give you a big shout out. I should also say thank you to Trump Boone, who says, "Hey, Zach, will you be at GART Nashville by any chance?" I will absolutely be at GART Nashville. So if you're going to be there, you better come up and say hello to me. Also, Moonbaby0437 says, "Thanks for bringing me the news," and then drops a cookie in addition to that cookie. You're absolutely welcome. Thank you for being here, and glad that you're hanging out with us. All right, now, in the world of artificial intelligence, probably besides like the artificial intelligence doomer brigade, the people who believe that AI is going to take over the world and destroy us, I'm not saying it's not going to, but I don't know that we're necessarily going to get to the position of, like, you know, say Skynet deciding to nuke the entire Earth. But a very real and immediate catastrophe that was arising in certain places, like where they were building these AI data centers, is that the price of electricity was rising proportionally to the usage of that electricity. And obviously, these data centers, they use a tremendous amount of electricity. So it puts a lot of pressure on the grid. It causes the electric companies to produce a lot more electricity. And even though you're not using electricity, if you live near one of these data centers, your electricity bill is going to go up because, of course, the power company realizes, well, we can charge more. They're going to use more. They have to use more. And of course, all these people that we sell electricity to, they have to continue to purchase electricity from us as well because it's essentially a monopoly. So they were taking advantage of the American people. And even in some cases, they were making deals with local municipal governments. And they were saying, well, we'll set up an AI data center here. We will create a certain amount of jobs, but we want the people who live around us to pick up the tab on electricity. That is obviously totally unacceptable. Well, President Trump made an incredible announcement last week. He said, first of all, under the sleepy Joe Biden and the radical left Democrats, the average American household's monthly utility bills went up massively, over 30%. I can say that definitely affected us down here in Florida. And I even got solar. Now, I never want Americans to pay higher electricity bills because of data centers. Therefore, my administration is working with major American technology companies to secure their commitment to the American people, and we will have much to announce in the coming weeks. First up is Microsoft, who my team has been working with, and will make major changes beginning this week to ensure that Americans do not pick up the tab for their power consumption in the form of paying higher utility bills. We are the hottest country in the world and number one in AI. Data centers are key to that boom and keeping Americans free and secure, but the big technology companies who build them must pay their own way. Thank you and congratulations to Microsoft. More to come soon. Now, Microsoft is building their own thorium salt reactor out west. They're going to be producing their own power. So what this appears to be is a promise from President Trump that in coordination with these AI data centers, they are also going to have to produce their own power to power them, which would mean in conjunction with the building of this data center, they would also have to have some form of electrical generation directly on site with these facilities, whatever that form comes in. But that would take so much load off of the grid, and it would mean that the power companies would have no reason to charge you more money. And they're not going to have an excuse if they do. If they roll the prices up, well, we know it's only because they're greedy. And obviously, we can deal with that on the other end of it. But nuclear is a huge portion of this. Thorium salt reactors are just now starting to come online in a number of different areas. It's a technology that's been around for many, many years. However, there was already the infrastructure in place to use between the nuclear weaponry industry and the nuclear power industry. Uranium was king, and thorium is essentially everywhere around you. It's in the dirt. It's very easy to extract, and you also don't have, a whole bunch of other negative things that happen when you are mining thorium. So this is huge news, guys. This is, again, President Trump's commitment to make sure that what we do in this nation to push us forward as a whole, as a society, isn't going to negatively affect individual people. And I think that this is one of the best things that he could have done. All right. Now, it is also with great sadness that I must announce to you guys, and I'm sure you have heard, but Scott Adams has unfortunately passed away. Now, it's my understanding that Scott's final words were, I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and essentially I look forward to spending eternity with him. Now, Scott wasn't a religious man, but he found Jesus at the very end of his life, and that's truly all that matters. Now, this is a final message from Scott Adams that was published by his ex-wife. She had graciously come back into his life at the tail end, and she was taking care of him. He had met and married a different woman, a younger woman. She was like an Instagram model. She's not around. I don't know what, where she is. I mean, she probably has nothing to do with it. They don't like each other anymore. But he writes, if you are reading this, things did not go well for me. I have a few things to say before I go. My body failed before my brain. I am of sound mind as I write this, January 1st, 2026. If you wonder about any of my choices for my estate or anything else, please know I am free of any coercion or inappropriate influence of any sort. I promise. Next, many of my Christian friends have asked me to find Jesus before I go. I'm not a believer, but I have to admit the risk-reward calculation for doing so looks attractive. So here I go. I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and I look forward to spending an eternity with him. The part about me not being a believer should be quickly resolved if I wake up in heaven. I won't need any more convincing than that, and I hope I am still qualified for entry. With your permission, I'd like to explain something about my life. For the first part of my life, I was focused on making myself a worthy husband and parent as a way to find meaning. That worked. But marriages don't always last forever, and mine eventually ended in a highly amicable way. I'm grateful for those years and for the people I came to call my family. Once the marriage unwound, I needed a new focus, a new meaning. And so I donated myself to the world, literally speaking the words out loud in my otherwise silent home. From that point on, I looked for ways I could add the most to people's lives one way or another. That marked the start of my evolution from Dilbert cartoonist to an author of what I hoped would be useful books. By then, I believed I had amassed enough life lessons that I could start passing them on. I continued making Dilbert comics, of course. As luck would have it, I'm a good writer. My first book in the useful genre was How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. That book turned out to be a huge success, often imitated, and influencing a wide variety of people. I still hear every day how much that book changed lives, and my plan to be useful was working. I followed up with my book Win Bigly that trained an army of citizens how to be more persuasive, which they correctly saw as a minor superpower. I know that book changed lives because I also hear that often. You'll probably know the impact that book had on the world, but I know, and you'll probably never know the impact that book had on the world, but I know. And it pleases me while giving me a sense of meaning that it is impossible to describe. My next book, Loser Think, tried to teach people how to think better, especially if they were displaying their thinking on social media. That one didn't put much of a dent in the universe, but I tried. Finally, my book, Reframe Your Brain, taught readers how to program their own thoughts to make their personal and professional lives better. I was surprised and delighted at how much positive impact that book is having. I also started podcasting a live show called Coffee with Scott Adams, dedicated to helping people think about the world and their lives in a more productive way. I didn't plan it this way, but it ended up helping a lot of lonely people find a community that made them feel less lonely. Again, that had great meaning for me. I had an amazing life. I gave it everything I had. If you got any benefits from my work, I'm asking you to pay it forward as best you can. That is the legacy I want. Be useful, and please know I loved you all to the end. Scott Adams. So yeah, really tragic. I know that Scott had announced several months ago that he had the same cancer that Joe Biden had. Scott also, unfortunately, was vaccinated. And we'll never really know if that was the cause of it, or if, even without that, the jab, whether or not Scott would have developed the cancer. But it's really unfortunate that in the end, he chose to go with traditional medical care, and it wasn't enough to save him. And so I think that even if you don't listen to Scott Adams, even if you never listened to a thing that he said, or, you trolled him on social media, I think that it's undeniable that he had an incredible impact on the world. And certainly he had an impact in conservative circles. And he was a great asset for President Trump and the administration. So God rest his soul. Thank you for everything you did, Scott Adams. And, I saw the craziest thing. Scott Adams, his eulogy in some mainstream media paper was disgraced Dilbert cartoonist Scott Adams dies from cancer. And I have to say, that is not the way that I think about Scott Adams. I never thought about Scott Adams and thought disgraced Dilbert cartoonist, because, even if I didn't agree with everything he said, it was obvious the guy was brilliant. He put a lot of thought into the things that he said, and when he spoke with intention, and I respected that. And you place that against something like when the head of ISIS died, and they called him an austere religious scholar. Get the F out of here. You've got to be kidding me. These people are absolutely insane. This is what we're fighting about. This is what we're fighting against. And this is certainly what Scott was fighting against as well. All right. Now, I'd also like to have a memorial of sorts for another young man who has passed away, perhaps less gloriously than Scott Adams. This young man is not going to be remembered for the work that he did here on Earth or for the hearts and minds that he changed or the people that he reached out to. No, this young man is going to be remembered for being killed by an off-duty ICE agent. Now, if you've heard about this story, then you probably heard that an off-duty ICE agent came upon a young man on the streets on New Year's Eve and shot and killed him. Shot and killed while black. That's basically the narrative that they've gone with. Well, it turns out it wasn't quite so simple. You see, this young man was mag dumping a rifle on New Year's Eve. He was dropping brass all over the interior of his apartment complex. He was living in a city, right, in a populated area. As much as I appreciate the Second Amendment, I have the respect for my neighbors not to go out into the middle of the street and mag dump straight up into the air, because all of all of those rounds are going to come down somewhere. And it's actually happened on a number of occasions where people were celebrating on New Year's Eve or on some other holiday in a crowded area in a park or something like that, and people just shot a couple of rounds up into the air. Well, at least one of those bullets came down and just went through the top of someone's head, killed them. Obviously, nobody was intending to kill anybody, but play stupid games, win stupid prizes. It's not the fault of the person who died, but it certainly is the fault of the idiot who doesn't understand how gravity works. Obviously, this young man did not understand what is not only legal, but permissible in a civilized society. Take a look at this report from a local news station. I'm going to have to refresh.
Keith Porter's mother, overcome with grief at the...
Okay. Now, first of all, let me just say, I'm so sorry for his mom. I'm sorry for his dad. I'm sorry for his family. Losing a son is not something that a parent should ever have to deal with. However, the attitude the family takes and the lack of responsibility that they have when discussing the actions their son took is unfathomable to me.
Candlelight Vigil in Carson, where she raised him. This is the second memorial in a week for the father of two shot and killed in Northridge by an off-duty ICE agent on New Year's Eve.
Took our loved one from us. You murdered our loved one, and it's not fair. It's not right.
According to the Department of Homeland Security, the off-duty ICE agent heard gunfire near his apartment and went to check it out. That's when DHS says the officer encountered Porter holding a long rifle. Advocates say Porter's gunfire that night was his way of observing the holiday.
Well, yes, it was illegal, but at the end of the day, it's American tradition.
No, it's not. No, it's not. On New Year's Eve, you celebrate with friends and family. Maybe you watch the ball drop. That's an American tradition. People pop a bottle of champagne. I don't know anybody who goes out into the middle of a street in a city and mag dumps into the sky. You guys, anybody here carry on that American tradition? I mean, is he in some nebulous way pointing to the Second Amendment? Maybe fireworks. Yes, maybe fireworks. I definitely went out on midnight on the 1st of January, and we did 10 mortars into the sky. But nobody was mag dumping, and I got a lot of guns here. But I've never gone out and mag dumped into the middle of my neighborhood. Totally ridiculous.
I'm 80 years old. It's happened as long as I can remember. That's one of the things that happens. People shoot guns as part of fireworks and celebration of...
No, they don't. Who is this white bitch? Where did you see that? Nobody in your family is going out and mag dumping, shooting guns into the sky. Maybe if you're watching a video of some Arabic wedding Bedouin tribe where they're shooting AK-47s and they just drop it and they continue shooting and then they kill half of the guests. I mean, that's a tradition. Certainly not my tradition.
The New Year.
But the agent allegedly ordered Porter to put down the weapon And when he didn't comply, DHS says the off-duty officer fired his service gun.
Now, what they're leaving out is it's not just that Porter didn't comply. Porter didn't comply and pointed his rifle at the off-duty officer. The moment he pointed his gun at the off-duty officer was fully justified in mag dumping into this man's torso.
The agency claims Porter fired 3 rounds at the off-duty agent before he was killed.
He fired 3 rounds at the off-duty agent after being told that he was a federal officer to lower your weapon. You know, he wasn't even working. He was an ICE agent. This guy wasn't an illegal alien. He probably, if you put the gun down and say, "Oh, my bad, bro. My bad. I'm sorry. I got carried away. We've been having some Courvoisier, smoking some blunts. I got a little carried away. Let me put the rifle down. I ain't gonna hurt you. I didn't do nothing." But that's not what he did. He shot at the officer.
This is a human rights issue.
The 43-year-old's death touching complete strangers. Judy Vaughn from Mid-City drove 20 miles to Carson for his memorial instead of marching at an anti-ICE protest closer to home.
We all need to recognize the shared humanity and come together.
What if one of the 3 bullets that Mr. Porter had shot at the officer had struck him and killed him? Would it still be a human rights issue at that point? Or would it be simply justified because they're on the ideological left and this man is a federal agent specifically working for ICE? I don't know.
I just wanted to be here to be a part of this group saying his life is valuable, his life matters, and we need to speak out in as many ways as possible.
While LAPD...
And we can say that. We can say Mr. Porter's life mattered. Of course it did. He shouldn't have died. But he's not dead because the officer indiscriminately fired his gun at him. This is it? Are there packages? Okay, that's fine. Oh, honey, this letter is... Oh, it's Zach and Lisa. Okay. His life was ended because of his own stupidity, not because of human rights or a discounting of his rights because he was firing a gun while black. I mean, it's not a thing, although he did it. He fired his gun at an officer, and if he hadn't done that, he would still be alive. He would still be there for his kids. So now what are his kids going to learn? Cops, bad. ICE, worse.
Investigates what led up to Porter's final moments. People here want the off-duty ICE officer identified, arrested, and charged.
And that dude's going to have to probably move out of his apartment, just, you know.
Hurt, lost. It was my brother. He was my life. He was my kid's life. He was the life of our family.
Organizers say on Tuesday,
even worse if it turns out he was a good dad,
that they will attend LAPD's police commission meeting to petition the chief to make Keith Porter's death investigation transparent. Organizers also acknowledge the shooting death of Renee Good, who was shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minnesota.
Again, Renee Good would be alive if she didn't attempt to drive her vehicle over an ICE officer. All right. We'll talk more about Renee Good, Minneapolis, the crazy stuff happening there. But first, I want to tell you guys about a story that I just saw drop yesterday. So I think that this also ties in with Venezuela because an intelligence expert by the name of Sasha Ingber, she's got a Substack called Human, which stands for Human Intelligence. So Sasha claims that she's got sources who say that the U.S. government currently is now in possession of a device that is believed to be the cause of Havana syndrome. Everybody knows about Havana syndrome. We've been talking about it for years. This has afflicted primarily U.S. officials and their family, intelligence officers, military personnel, diplomats, and it all started in Cuba back in 2016, which is why they call it Havana syndrome. So there are 4 unrelated individual sources who came and spoke with this woman, Sasha Ingber. So she says a wild interview that made the rounds on social media caused me to start asking if the U.S. had some sort of equivalent weapon. I think she may be referring to that account that we learned from the extraction of Maduro, where everybody started bleeding and their heads split open and they started puking and they were totally incapacitated. So in the interview, a supposed Venezuelan security guard from Maduro claimed that they were incapacitated during that Delta Force raid. It was like a very intense sound wave. Suddenly, felt like my head was exploding from the inside. We all started bleeding from the nose. Some were vomiting blood. We fell to the ground, unable to move. Caroline Levitt shared the same story, obviously indicating that, yeah, guys, that's exactly what happened. So she went off and she started asking questions. One person with knowledge of special ops expressed skepticism of that Venezuelan account. And she asked, well, was it an excuse for poor performance and we, the U.S. government, are exploiting it? I don't think so. I think that we actually have exactly what was described. Another person thought the interview sounded like straight propaganda, totally out of line with Venezuela's machismo culture. A third source, former senior intelligence official, thought the manifestation of symptoms in terms of range and immediacy were quite different from Havana syndrome. Obviously, he's ignoring the idea that if this is a frequency or sound-based weapon, the intensity could be dialed up, dialed down, could be widened, could be directly made to hit a very small location. But maybe this guy just wants to get in good favor with the U.S., she thinks. But in the midst of these conversations, two additional people told me that a number of months ago, the U.S. captured a weapon that has been associated with Havana syndrome. Both of them said it was seized by U.S. Special Forces during an operation. I'm not sure who, when, or where. They said the weapon has been tested so that the U.S. can understand how the device works. And to be clear, no one said that it has ever been used. After this article initially published, another person linked to the intel community contacted me to confirm my reporting and said that the weapon is under the Department of War's Intelligence and Security Unit. Then a few hours ago, National Security Attorney Mark Zaid, who was not involved in my reporting, wrote on social media, as attorney for nearly 36 federal victims, mostly from within the intelligence community of anomalous health incidents, I can confirm that I had the same information of the U.S. government possessing one or more of these devices and from different sources than who Sasha spoke with. Mark said that the third source told me they believe the weapon was purchased, not part of a special forces operation. Another person in this world was not aware of this particular device, but said that there have been tests of directed energy weapons. They've been doing that for many, many years. But it sounds like the cause of Havana syndrome is different in one form or another. Another person who is familiar with these operations, to include JSOC operations and the potential use of such a weapon, told me that the United States does possess a weapon that causes disturbing internal issues. The stuff that brings you to your knees, causes you to throw up and lose your bowels. The point is that it is less than lethal, incapacitating, but not killing. Sounds very familiar to what we just heard from Venezuela. Now, it's widely known that the U.S. has this weapon, this person added, so much so that back in 2018, the Israelis asked the Defense Department if they could use the weapon, but the request wasn't for a military operation or anything close to Hamas's October 7th attack. It was simply for crowd control against the Palestinians. Now, the person said the Defense Secretary James Mathis, a retired four-star general, politely declined. It had never been tested on people, and the U.S. would not give it to the Israelis to test on the Palestinian people. Even after that, the person had never seen it used in an operation, and that no one in Delta Force is out there talking about whether or not such a weapon was used when they grabbed Maduro. She did reach out to the Pentagon and the CIA for response on the weapon's seizure and testing, but of course nobody is commenting on this as well. But she did report years ago that the working theory about Havana syndrome was that it was likely caused from some sort of a gun and directed energy weapon, easily transportable, that it could be targeted at people using that directed energy, which means a pulsed radio frequency, which can silently or with a perceived sound harm the brain and cause the types of symptoms that we saw. So, very interesting stuff. Now, the other portion of this story, Delta is never going to talk about this. I'm surprised that we got as much information about this as quickly as we did, but clearly there were people thinking about this in the background, even before this raid happened. So I think it's highly likely that the United States has this. Now, Part of the story says that perhaps at the tail end of the Biden administration, we paid out like 8 figures. Oh, sweet. Thank you. We paid out like 8 figures to purchase this from someone. Another version of the story says that we discovered it in a raid and that it was a device that was small enough to fit in a backpack. There was also a Russian several years ago. I don't remember if it was during the latter part of the Trump administration or the first part of the Biden administration, but there was a Russian spy that was operating here on a visa, pretending to be a cook. And there were some communications that he had, which seemed to indicate that he had access to a device that would cause Savannah syndrome. And he was actually arrested and something was seized from him. And I believe that this was also reported on as part of some Havana syndrome reporting from, initially when it came out. But, well, Diligent, it's not exactly Royal Rife technology. I mean, like, it is similar to Royal Rife technology because obviously using the Royal Rife radio frequencies, you can target certain cells, either to, destroy something using its resonant frequency. But we don't know specifically if that's what this is. I mean, in order, if we were to target the resonant frequency of a human being, then, theoretically, you could just make somebody melt. And I do actually want to bring up a story that a friend of mine who was a veteran who had served in Iraq at one point had told me about. And he said he didn't know what this was, but it sounds like it could be something similar to that because they had an operation where they were going into a small compound to go after this guy. And there was some exotic weapon that they had. And they pointed it at this dude's house and they blasted it off. It wasn't like a projectile. It wasn't like a laser beam or anything like that. But it quite literally disintegrated a part of the wall of this dude's house. And he was sitting in a chair. And when they got to the location, the only thing that was left of him was his legs and a puddle of red. And he said, I don't even know what these guys used, but I saw it used, and it was unlike anything I had ever seen before. Absolutely insane. So, so I'm not ready to say that it's rife necessarily, but obviously, if you're just going to equate something in the radio frequency realm to be equivalent to rife, I don't think that we can do that. I don't think that it is an equivalency. But obviously, anything that's frequency-based or radio-based or resonance-based, I mean, they're all kind of in the same realm, but not exactly the same. All right, now, let's talk about Jerome Powell. I probably should have had this pulled up directly after we talked about silver. But it turns out that the investigation into Jerome Powell is due to the criminal referral that Anna Paulina Luna sent to the Department of Justice in the summer of 2025. Take a listen. I'm going to have to refresh.
Yeah, look, you can't perjure yourself to Congress. And regardless of what the senators, I don't even know if we want to call them senators because I don't think that they're actually representing the interests of their voters. But regardless of what some of these Republican senators are saying about, this being targeted prosecution by the president, specifically Murkowski, I actually just said today, this criminal referral is one that I did directly and I sent last year. And so for people to say that this is somehow partisan and now somehow the DOJ is opening up this investigation, we sent that request because of his own statements. Powell's own statements where he perjured himself to Senate. And the Senate, as well as Congress on the House side, has the exact same rules. You can't lie to Congress. Anyone else would go to jail for that. So I'm the first person that says if you're going to do it, you should be held in criminal court for it. And so I think that he'll have explaining to do. I don't think it has anything to do with the interest rates, but I also find it very interesting that people are failing to go back to the point that we sent this referral last year and they're trying to make it current as if it's targeted and it's not. So we'll be fighting the fake news all day long on that one.
All right. So I have said this before and I will say it again. A lot of people give Anna Paulina Luna guff, but I think that she's doing great stuff. I mean, people may see what she says as performative, but I don't see anybody else talking about the stuff that she's talking about. She's standing there with Tim Burchett. Tim Burchett, in my opinion, is totally based. You can always make the argument that these people are just characters on TV. However, they do hold elected office, whether they were put there legally or fraudulently. They are there. And for better or worse, we've got to work with what we have available to us. And I am perfectly happy to see Anna Paulina Luna putting out these criminal referrals and doing what she can to try to bring justice for the American people. So thank you, Anna Paulina Luna. Now, in addition to that, U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, has also spoken out. Now, the clip that we watched from Powell yesterday was released late Sunday night in response to the request, the legal request from the Department of Justice that came on Friday. Now, that was highly unusual. I've never seen anything like that from a Fed chairman or even a member of the Fed, even with the claims against Federal Reserve Governor, what's her name? She's been accused of the same type of mortgage fraud that New York Attorney General Pkwy James has been accused of. I can't remember her name because we haven't spoken about her in so long. But even then, she didn't put out like a video response immediately following an action from the Department of Justice. I mean, she let that simmer and she had her lawyer do the talking. But Jerome Powell looked spooked, and I said that yesterday because, you know, the Fed, whenever they do anything, they plan this stuff out in advance. They really have, like, tight control over everything that they do and everything that they say. But Jeanine Pirro says that the message that Jerome Powell put out was totally disingenuous. She said the United States Attorney's Office contacted the Federal Reserve on multiple occasions to discuss cost overruns and the chairman's congressional testimony, but were ignored. So go back to Anna Paulina Luna's criminal referral back in July. You know, they had 6 months where they were probably trying to do this without having to do it this way. But they were ignored, necessitating the use of the legal process, which is not a threat. It's a promise, in my words. The word indictment has come out of Mr. Powell's mouth, no one else's. Yeah, that's right. He hasn't been indicted yet. None of this would have happened if they would have just responded to our outreach. Again, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That gentleman wouldn't have lost his life if he hadn't shot 3 bullets at an off-duty ICE agent. This office makes decisions based on the merits, nothing more, nothing less. We agree with the chairman of the Federal Reserve that no one is above the law, and that is why we expect his full cooperation. Looking forward to seeing just how that cooperation pans out from here. Now, let me say thank you very much to Lee Walden. He says, "Hey, Zach, Lisa, and crew, your contribution to the cause is very much appreciated. You are ever present in our new world of news. You're a wicked pissa intellect, and you have a great sense of humor." Thank you so much, Lee. I appreciate you, homie. Yasman19 says, "Hey, Zach, my head is still spinning from baseless conspiracies last night." I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was one of the funner ones. And I will, you know, I had a good time with it as well. I've always been fascinated by the story of Al Bielek and Duncan and Ed Cameron and Preston Nichols and Stuart Swerdlow, all of them. I do believe that there was certainly classified stuff happening at Camp Hero. I believe that the Philadelphia experiment was a real experiment. And I can't tell you everything, you know, word for word. Like John always wants evidence, and, you know, unfortunately, that's just not possible sometimes. All we have is what people say. And certainly there are a lot of people talking about some very weird things happening there on Montauk. And of course, you know, can't ignore the Montauk monster either, can you? All right. Now, good news. After Jack Smith's closed-door testimony was released by the Oversight Committee, it appears that he is now set to testify publicly. That testimony is going to take place next week. Now, Julie Kelly says, "I have many questions I want lawmakers to ask, starting with, why did you continue to sign your name as Special Counsel Jack Smith on government filings in the Florida documents case after Judge Cannon dismissed the indictment in July 2024 after determining that your appointment violated the Constitution?" I had no idea he had done that, but clearly after Judge Cannon made her decision, Jack Smith was no longer Special Counsel Jack Smith. This is important because a judge in Virginia, a former colleague of Jim Comey's, is demanding that Halligan explain why her name and title as U.S. Attorney remains on DOJ filings after a separate judge declared her appointment violated the Constitution. The response to the judge's inquiry is expected today. The disqualification order for Lindsay Halligan, obviously that's on appeal. Jack Smith added his name and title to DOJ filings until his last day in office. No one, including the media, now hounding Halligan for the same, ever said a word to Jack Smith in protest. Certainly one thing that I think needs to be asked. I'd also like to get information on the various confidential human sources that Jack Smith and his team were using to investigate President Trump and the people surrounding him. It recently came out that Jack Smith had paid a confidential human source $20,000 to give information on President Trump. I want to know who that person was. And I want to know if they were the only confidential human source that was paid. I also want to know exactly what that information was that they gleaned for that $20,000. Was that a judicious use of the American taxpayers' money? I'm going to say no, because there were no crimes that were committed by President Trump or any of the people surrounding him. Now, Bill and Hillary Clinton, they have decided to F around. And very soon, they're going to be finding out.
See, as you can see, the more you around, the more you're going to find out.
All right. Now, today was Bill Clinton's scheduled subpoena to testify before the House Oversight Committee. This is in relation to Jeffrey Epstein. But obviously, when they get him there under oath, they'll have the opportunity to ask them about everything that happened. Anything related to the Clinton Foundation is fair game, because Jeffrey Epstein was one of the founding members of the Clinton Foundation with Bill and Hillary Clinton. Now, they had been scheduled to testify on several different occasions. The initial request, very politely, came in August of last year, and they were informed through their attorney that if today and tomorrow, Bill was scheduled today, Hillary was scheduled tomorrow, if they chose not to show up, then there would be consequences. And as you know, both Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon were put through the ringer for refusing to testify before the House Unselect Committee on January 6th. Both Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon had executive privilege, however. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have no such privilege. So this now exacerbates this fight, and it puts Chairman Comer in a position where if he doesn't take the action that he has sworn to take, nobody is going to take them seriously. Why would anybody show up to testify before Congress after receiving a subpoena at any time in the future? Because all it is a piece of paper and it's unenforceable if Congress is unwilling to do anything about it. Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon were put in prison for not testifying before Congress. At a minimum, Bill and Hillary Clinton need to be treated in exactly the same way. So, James Comer, from the New York Times, they report every person has to decide when they have seen or had enough and are ready to fight for this country, its principles, and its people, no matter the consequences. Now, we will read the entirety of the Clintons' statement in response to James Comer and the Oversight Committee, but that is a small sample. They claim that their refusal to testify before Congress, before the House Oversight Committee, is that they are standing on their principles and they are fighting for the American people. You've got to be kidding me. The American people want to hear what Bill and Hillary Clinton have to say about their personal, private, ongoing relationship for a very long time with convicted sex trafficker, pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the New York Times says that Comer wants to force the Clintons to testify because he wants to deflect from President Trump so that he can shift the spotlight to the Democrats. But have they been looking at the same documents and pictures that have been coming out as me? Because as far as anybody that I know with a pulse can tell, those Epstein files have affected one group of people overwhelmingly, and the Clintons are among that group of people. So the deadline was for them to come and testify today. They chose not to do that. James Comer and the Oversight Committee gave a brief press conference after it became clear that they were not going to show up Let's go ahead and hear from the chairman himself.
I think everyone knows by now Bill Clinton did not show up, and I think it's important to note that
Look at that! She's got the Bill Clinton in the blue dress picture. Oh, my God. Boebert. I love this woman.
Was voted on in a bipartisan manner by this committee. This wasn't something that I just issued as chairman of the committee. This was voted on by the entire committee in a unanimous vote of the House Oversight Committee to subpoena former President Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Now, Hillary Clinton's supposed to show up tomorrow. We'll see what happens there. But with respect to the former president, he did not show up today. One reason I think most Americans want President Clinton to answer some questions is because he visited the White House. Jeffrey Epstein visited the White House 17 times while Bill Clinton was
17 times while Bill Clinton was president. 17 times. And the man who facilitated Jeffrey Epstein coming and visiting the White House is the very same man who was found hanging from a willow tree in Arkansas on a ranch that was connected to the Clintons. He was hung by his neck from a electrical cord, an extension cord, one of those orange extension cords. And then he had also allegedly shot himself in the chest with a 12-gauge shotgun. And that 12-gauge shotgun was very far away from the body. Isn't that interesting?
president. I've been in Congress 9 years. I think I've been to the White House 9 times in 9 years. Epstein was in the White House double the amount of time that I was under one president. And then we know that Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane somewhere around 27 times after the presidency. So no one's accusing Bill Clinton of any wrongdoing. We just have questions, and that's why the Democrats voted along with Republicans. Bill Clinton. Not a single Democrat showed up today. Not a single Democrat. The ones that have press conferences on the Capitol steps and talk about how they're trying to get justice for the victims and all that. It just seems like they only care about questioning Republicans. And we've had a former Trump cabinet secretary, Acosta, in for a grilling. We had Bill Barr, former attorney general, in for a grilling. But for whatever reason, President Clinton didn't show up, and the Democrats on the committee don't seem to have a problem. This is the amount of preparation that went into this deposition today.
Oh, damn. They probably got a lot of really good questions to ask Bill Clinton. Look at how big this is. He would have been there all day. Dang.
These were the questions that we were prepared to ask. We've communicated with President Clinton's legal team for months now, giving them opportunity after opportunity to come in, to give us a date, and they continue to delay to the point where we had no idea whether they're going to show up today or not. I think it's very disappointing. As a result of Bill Clinton not showing up for his lawful subpoena, which again was voted on unanimously by the committee in a bipartisan manner, we will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress.
And you know what comes after contempt of Congress? Lawful arrest. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton can both be arrested and held in the detention cells in the basement of the Congress building. And there they can be made to wait until such time that they choose to comply with the subpoena. Again, if they don't do this, then this government is a joke, even more than many people already believe it to be. Because they have made threats, they have made promises. They have time and time again said that they're going to help bring justice and accountability to the American people. What do Bill and Hillary Clinton have to hide? I think we all know what they have to hide. Let me also say thank you so much to Freya and the boys. He says, just to put this whole Freya thing to bed, please play Freya Knows. Let's start a challenge. I will go first. Thank you for all your hard work, Zach. Freya Knows. I think that this is this is your dog. This is your dog barking at Nancy Pelosi being mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, howling. This is so funny. Freya's a patriot. Yeah, here he is.
Election results.
Freya.
Nancy Pelosi. Freya. Huh. Nancy Pelosi. Yeah. Nancy Pelosi. Freya. Nancy Pelosi. Hup, hup. Nancy Pelosi. Freya. Nancy Pelosi. Freya. Nancy Pelosi, Freya. Yeah. Yeah. Nancy Pelosi, Freya.
Is this your ice shanty, Freya? Are you out on the lake?
Freya. Nancy Pelosi. Hup, 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 hup. Hup. Nancy Freya. Good girl.
Beautiful dog. I absolutely love white German Shepherds. That is such a wonderful dog. Great dog for you to have. Yes, I was fishing. Okay, good. All right, let's take a look. Well, first of all, again, thank you, Freya, for the donation. Also, I need to say thank you so much to Minnesota Voter, who says, hello, corruption detector. I am 69 and not digitally savvy at all. I cannot like or comment, and I tried to get on Rumble Premium 4 times. I gave up, but you are the best. Thank you, sir. You are the best. Or ma'am, I don't know. I'm assuming your gender here. But I've been listening to you since you and Methods were queuing it up. Hope we all have a great year. Minnesota Voter. Thank you so much, Minnesota Voter. I appreciate you. And in order to like or to comment or to get into the chat, you've got to make sure that you're signed in to Rumble. And you have to be watching the show while it's live to comment in the chat. You can, of course, comment below after the show is over. But if you're unable to like, then that must mean that you're not signed in. That's the only thing that makes sense. And then, obviously, you got to be signed in when you're subscribing to Rumble Premium so that it knows where you are trying to put the membership. Send me an email. If you've got an email, redpill78@proton.me. I'll see what I can help. But yes, you have to have a Rumble account. All right. So, Barbara. Yes, Barbara. I don't have a screen name, so I'll just say, love you, Barbara. Thank you so much. She says, hey, Zach, and hi, Lisa. Thanks for the info. Just want to say thank you for the work you put into RP78 every day. I look forward to your honest reporting on all the crazy shit going on. Sending this rather than a subscription so that it all goes to you. With love, Barbara. Barbara, I appreciate you. Both of them sent me a donation. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for the support, making it possible for me to continue to do this work. Artsy Jones says, it's not illegal to fly on Epstein's plane, nor visit his island. What kind of evidential proof of what crimes do they think they have against him? Thanks, Zach. God bless. So that's the thing. It's my opinion that likely inside those files and related to, let's say, the personal accounts of whistleblowers and victims who came forward to talk about Bill Clinton behaving inappropriately, they need to get him on the stand to ask him about those things, because ultimately he will likely impeach himself. And you're absolutely right. Not illegal to go to Epstein's island. Not illegal to fly on his plane. It's the illegal activities that he partook in that he doesn't want to be asked. He also does not want to be under oath to be asked any questions about his close personal associates, many of which have died in strange and tragic ways over the years. If Bill Clinton is under oath and asked about things that could criminally impeach him, well, then, of course, why would he want to do that? He doesn't. But let's look at their statement. Now, this is a lengthy one. Chairman Comer, addressed to Chairman Comer, as of today. We want to take a moment, given everything, to address you directly. This past year has seen our government engage in unprecedented acts. And none of this has to do with Epstein, including against our own citizens. People have been seized by masked federal agents from their homes, their workplaces, and the streets of their communities. I got to be honest with you. I am surprised at how many brain-dead morons are out there on the internet, mindlessly repeating the same untrue narrative that ICE is just coming in and rounding up American citizens, going after people minding their own business. They're just kidnapping people. Like, you are so dumb. You are so dumb. Really, really dumb. because that's not what's happening at all. We'll show you a little bit later in the show. Let's see. Students and scientists with visas permitting them to study and work here who have been deported without due process. That's not true. If you have a visa to come to the United States and you've done something to have that visa revoked, your due process has been used up. The people who laid siege to the U.S. Capitol, and there it is, invoke January 6th, he's just hitting all the points here, who have laid siege to the U.S. Capitol have been pardoned and called heroes. Agencies vital to the country's national security have been dismantled. Universities, media companies, and law firms have been subjected to threats to their funding, access, and right to constitutionally protected speech. American troops have been deployed on the streets of our towns and cities. The Justice Department has been used as a weapon, that sounds familiar, at the direction of the president to pursue political opponents. And most recently and searingly, an ICE agent killed an unarmed mother only days ago. Hold on. Do I have an appropriate sound effect that I could play here?
Sure, Jan.
Every person who has to decide when they have seen or had enough and are ready to fight for this country, its principles, and its people, no matter the consequences. For us, conveniently, that time is now. We are lucky by virtue of the positions we held and the protections afforded by them. But we are not blind. Every day we see the country we have dedicated our lives to improving, taking step after step after step backwards. As chairman of this powerful congressional committee, you have immense power to target anyone and subject them to closed-door interrogation and more. The decisions you have made and the priorities you have set as chairman regarding the Epstein investigation have prevented progress in discovering the facts about the government's role. The facts speak for themselves. You subpoenaed 8 people in addition to us. You dismissed 7 of those 8 without any of them saying a single word to you. You made no attempt to force them to appear. In fact, since you started your investigation last year, you have interviewed a total of 2 people. 2! A legal analysis prepared by 2 law firms and provided to you yesterday makes clear your subpoenas are legally invalid. Try me, Bill. Try me. You claim your subpoenas are inviolate when they are used against us, yet were silent when the sitting president took the same position as a former president barely more than 3 years ago. We call on you to release that analysis to the public, to allow them to see how this is yet another example of the casual disregard of the law of the land. All the while, you have done nothing with your oversight capacity to force the Department of Justice to follow the law and release all its Epstein files, including any material regarding us, as we have publicly called for. Totally disingenuous. They have released more than any other administration. It is still being reviewed. Why? Because they keep finding more. Because administrations past had stuffed it away in cubby holes and binders and microfiche and broom closets. If it wasn't for the guilty parties hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, getting the hot dog and pizza parties, then we would have all of the Epstein files. Over the last year in the House, extending health care for Americans in any state succeeded only because enough Republicans joined with the Democrats. The fact that the public and we are seeing any of the Department of Justice's Epstein files is only because 4 Republicans out of 220 joined every Democrat to reach the minimum number of members to force a vote. You were not one of those 4. Even now, despite the Department of Justice's failure to follow the law the Congress passed, you have chosen not to consider subpoenaing the sitting Attorney General to follow the law. Despite everything that needs to be done to help our country, you are on the cusp of bringing Congress to a halt to pursue a rarely used process literally designed to result in our imprisonment. Oh, that's the wrong one. I meant to do this. Imprisonment. This is not the way of America's ills. This is not the way out of America's ills, and we will forcefully defend ourselves. Indeed, bringing the Republicans' cruel agenda to a standstill while you work harder to pass a contempt charge against us than you have done on your investigation this past year would be our contribution to fighting the madness. We have tried to give you the little information we have. We've done so because Mr. Epstein's crimes were horrific. If the government didn't do all it could to investigate and prosecute these crimes for whatever reason, that should be the focus of your work. To learn why and to prevent that from happening ever again. There is no evidence that you are doing so. Just because you don't see it, Bill, doesn't mean it ain't happening. Instead, you have forced the victims to relive their painful experiences. You know, the victims actually that have come forward and spoken about this, they want to talk about it because they want justice. They want people like Bill Clinton to be brought to the public square and to be pilloried or whatever it is that they're going to do to him. Okay, while doing little to give them and everybody else what's deserved, truth and justice. There is no plausible explanation for what you are doing other than partisan politics. Again, factually inaccurate. You accepted the least from those who know the most, but demand the most from those who know the least. I want to know who wrote this. It's actually very well done. To say you can't complete your work without speaking to us is simply bizarre. You have asked what we know. To answer your inquiry, we are providing you with the same or more than 7 of the other 8 individuals you subpoenaed regarding the handling of the Epstein investigations and prosecutions, which may be why you have not publicly released their written statements. We expect you will say it is not enough. We expect you'll reject it. You may even set out an empty chair or stand in front of the cameras and outright dismiss what we have provided. We expect you will direct your committee to seek to hold us in contempt. You may even release irrelevant, decades-old photos that you hope will embarrass us. You will say your caucus and the Speaker and the President are behind you 100%. We hope, perhaps in vain, that they will not allow you to single-handedly hijack the Congress by unilaterally making this decision for your colleagues, your party, and your country. You will say it is not our decision to make, but we have made it. Now you have to make yours. And I wholeheartedly agree. James Comer, it's time to arrest Bill and Hillary Clinton. We are prepared to make our case to your 45 committee members, and if need be, more. Importantly, we also will defend ourselves in the public arena and ensure this country knows exactly what we are doing and why we are doing so, instead of helping the American people who need this Congress's work and protection. For more people, most people, maybe even the bulk of the Congress, today will be the first they learn of this dispute. Are you kidding me? Everybody knows about this dispute. We are confident that any reasonable person in or out of Congress will see, based on everything we release, that what you are doing is trying to punish those who you see as enemies and to protect those you think are your friends. Continue to mislead Americans about what is truly at stake, and you will learn that Americans are better at finding the truth than you are at burying it. Continue to pursue auto pens instead of penning laws Americans need, and you will learn that you are signing away any remaining chance of being on the right side of history. Couldn't be more wrong. Continue to abet the dismantling of America, and you will learn that it takes more than a wrecking ball to demolish what Americans have built over 250 years. That is, of course, signed by Bill and Hillary Clinton. And, of course, they have disabled comments. Only Bill Clinton follows or mentions can comment on this, but no one has commented on it, because why would they? This is simply radioactive. Hillary Clinton did the exact same thing. He chose not to tag his wife in this, and she has put out her own announcement. Let's go to Hillary Clinton and see if anybody has commented on her release of this dual statement. Nope. Not a one. Not a one. But more people have liked Bill's version of the statement, even though it's exactly the same. All right, so the only choice that James Comer and the Oversight Committee have is to arrest Bill and Hillary Clinton and force them to come in and testify. That's it. That's the only thing they can do. Now, James Comer replied to that tweet. He said, "You're right, President Clinton. This is about right and wrong. Epstein survivors deserve justice and answers. Refusing to comply with a bipartisan, duly authorized congressional subpoena in our Epstein investigation is unacceptable. No one is above the law. All right, so Comer, put your money where your mouth is. Show us that no one is above the law. Show us that Bill Clinton, who was photographed with sex trafficking victims on Jeffrey Epstein's Lolita Express, who was photographed taking swimming lessons with Ghislaine Maxwell, the also convicted sex trafficking accomplice of Jeffrey Epstein, and what we are assuming are victims because their faces are blurred out. Show us that Bill Clinton is not above the law. Revoke the passports for Bill and Hillary Clinton right now so that they can't abscond from this country and put themselves outside of the boundaries of law enforcement. Show us that the rule of law is real and not some made-up concept that has no bearing when it applies to people like Bill and Hillary Clinton. Show us. Until that time, I am waiting, and I think all of us are waiting as well. Now, we've also got some information about a little shakeup happening in the Eastern District of Virginia. Artsy Joan, thank you again. Hey, would you blow me? Says, if they arrest Bill and Hillary, Bill would be forced to sleep with her in the jail cell. I'd commit suicide first if I were him. I think that they would probably put them in adjoining but separate cells. Because, of course, I think that they might realize that Bill might just strangle her in her sleep to stop her from saying anything that he doesn't want her to say. Thank you to Paulie9363 for the ship over on Pilled. Thank you so much to No Thanks Joe, who says, happy TDS Tuesday, Lisa and Zach. Every day just gets better and better with all of the stuff you report on. God bless you both, and please stay safe. Love you both. Love you too, homie. Thank you so much. All right, real quick, before we continue, let me bring you a brief message from our friends over here on Rumble. You guys, if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, don't worry, you've still got an opportunity. There are some of those starter kits available. When you get one, it will include some of their bold dark roast. Very, very robust coffee. Their smooth medium roast. It goes down a treat. And their Vitality Mushroom coffee to give you that clean energy and laser focus without the crash of traditional coffee. It's all made from the highest quality beans, single origin, small batch, toxin, and mold free. Not all coffee brands can say that. And you're also going to get some freebies, that gold spoon clip, their strong frother, and a memorable black 1775 tumbler. It's a great deal, $170 worth of coffee and gear, and it's all yours for $99. If you've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble and wonder if it's actually worth trying, I'm going to skip to the finish line. It truly is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab one of these starter kits before they're gone. You can use that QR code on screen or the link that you're going to see in the chat. Get yourself a package of bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Thank you so much to Rumble and 1775 Coffee. Appreciate you guys. All right, so the Justice Department has just fired one of the top lawyers in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Virginia. This is the same office that Lindsay Halligan was running when she was the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. This is also the office that was prosecuting Letitia James and James Comey. And this might give us an insight as to why we haven't seen any forward movement on those cases, even after they were first brought and that judge threw them out because of Lindsay Halligan's so-called unconstitutional appointment. Her number two was a man by the name of Robert McBride, and until just recently, he was her number two, but he no longer is. You see, a grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia indicted FBI Director James Comey and Letitia James. James Comey was indicted on 2 counts, false statements and obstruction of congressional proceeding. It was dismissed at the same time as Letitia James's because of that judge's decision on the appointment of Lindsay Halligan. It was stated at that time that the Justice Department was going to be moving forward. However, that has not happened. Now, Judge Cameron McGowan Curry, who is an appointment of none other than Bill Clinton, ruled on that appointment. And Lindsay Halligan, even though she is no longer officially the U.S. attorney, is allegedly still pursuing that case against James Comey and Letitia James as well. But it appears that Robert McBride was having secret meetings and apparently also refusing to bring those cases forward. Now, it was reported by MS Now, which is still MSDNC, that the Justice Department fired Mr. McBride after he declined to lead the prosecution of former FBI Director James Comey. Now, they got this from multiple people briefed on the matter, speaking on the condition of anonymity. But Robert McBride was a justice prosecutor and a former Navy lawyer. He was brought into the prominent satellite office of the Justice Department at the Eastern District of Virginia to serve as the first assistant to U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan, and then he had to take on a prominent role as her status was in question after that ruling by the judge in November. Now, McBride is a prosecutor and former supervisor at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Kentucky. He was asked in recent days to run the Comey case so that we could have somebody on there who wasn't going to get thrown out at a later point. But allegedly, he told top justice officials that he felt it would be too difficult to do so and also run the office at the same time. Now, Halligan had also recently learned that McBride was having these private meetings with federal judges in the Eastern District of Virginia. Sounds to me like he was trying to collude with these judges. I wonder if that's an ethical arrangement that could get these judges thrown off the bench as well. I mean, we got to do everything we can to get justice for the American people. So if we can get rid of these judges and get rid of this corrupt prosecutor, well, I think that that is a win-win. Now, we also have word that the first assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson in Minnesota, he was the guy who discovered all of the billions of dollars in fraud in Minnesota, is also leaving his post. Now, he left of his own accord. And the rumor on the street from Dustin Grage, who is a great reporter right there in Minneapolis, is that he is looking at either a national role at the Department of Justice. So perhaps he could take on that role that J.D. Vance said was going to be created to be the assistant U.S. attorney or the assistant attorney general in charge of fraud for the entire country. That would make a lot of sense. Or he may be looking at running for statewide office in Minnesota. But either way, Joe Thompson is a solid guy. And whatever he chooses to do, I think that I'm going to be backing him for it. Now, we also have a story from Scott Bessent, who says that he, too, has heard the conversations that Keith Ellison was having with the guilty parties in the Feeding Our Future scam. He called them disturbing tapes of AG Keith Ellison talking about taking money from the Feeding Our Future scammers to stop the investigation into Somali fraud. Let's go ahead and take a look at Scott Bessent talking about this because, you know, it's one thing that we know about it. It's another thing when the man investigating the fraud in the state of Minnesota has some knowledge of it as well. Keith Ellison, of course, has been criminally referred to the Department of Justice. And as I recall, that tape sure sounded like he was discussing a payoff and discussing helping these people because, of course, they were committing fraud while black.
Sort of following the money, there are evidently some disturbing tapes of A.G. Ellison in meetings with people who donated to him, them calling for political favors to stop the investigations. So we'll see. But again, I don't want to get out ahead of the investigations. It's going to be very methodical. And Chris, I can guarantee you, when the bear trap snaps, we're going to get these folks. And again, we're going to follow the money, whether it's over the two counties here, in Minneapolis, St. Paul's, or whether it's to East Africa. And there's tons of luxury properties, cars that have been bought over there. And
they already know where all of that money went. They've already followed all of that money. He said it's hard to follow the money. There are evidently some disturbing tapes of A.G. Ellison in meetings with people who donated to him. That would be the Feeding Our Future scammers, calling for political favors to stop the investigations. We'll see. I don't want to get ahead of it. Obviously, Scott Bessent is going to do this methodically. I think that Scott Bessent is 100% an autist. Scott Bessent is like the Terminator. You give this man, he's a human bloodhound, and he's going to sniff out that money trail like nobody's business. I mean, we are talking about a several $100 million worth of fraud here. Not all of it went into luxury properties and supercars and Louis Vuitton bags, but plenty of it went to bribes, and they've already tracked a good portion of it going directly into the campaign coffers of people like Keith Ellison. Yes, based and gay. That is correct. He's the most based gay that I have ever seen. All right, now, speaking on Minnesota, President Trump had some comments from the lawn of the White House earlier today in regards to the people that ICE is taking out. And, of course, President Trump wants to draw attention to the killers and the rapists and the drug dealers. Let's take a listen.
You saw my statement on Iran. You saw my statement on Minnesota. On Minnesota, we have taken out killers, rapists, drug dealers, people from mental institutions that came in illegally. All of them, most of them came in illegally. They're from other countries. They came in under the Biden ridiculous open border policy, and we've gotten a lot of them out. We just had numbers from Chicago, where Chicago crime has gone down pretty good. It could go down 100%.
Isle of White privilege. I don't feel tardy. Don't worry. You're on WPT, white people time. All right. Oh, man, come on. Speak to us, boss. Where are we at? We're at 33 seconds. Let me refresh.
On Iran, you saw my...
Perfect.
Percent virtually, but we're fighting with that governor who's so incompetent. But as you know, we took out a lot of killers, murderers, drug dealers, drug addicts, mental institution people, and people from jails. We took them out of Chicago. So Chicago's got much better numbers now than it had a few months ago. We will get no credit for it, but these are minor details. Crime in Washington, D.C. is almost non-existent. It's a safe place, so people can come bring their families. They can send their son and daughter to look at Lincoln, Washington, Jefferson, or whatever they want to look at. But it's almost non-existent. We're very proud of that. Memphis is making tremendous strides, and so is New Orleans. We have a whole group of people, and crime in New Orleans is down about 65%. We've only been there for 3 weeks. So it's really amazing what's happening throughout the country. The crime numbers are among the best numbers we've ever had.
The United States is in a very different position than it was when President Trump came into office. You know, a lot of people are, why isn't it happening faster? Well, I've always thought that the importation of TDA and MS-13 and all of these illegal aliens, it wasn't just about votes. It was also about a covert military that could have been called upon at any point to engage in horrendous attacks on infrastructure and the American people. If you're going to round up the people at the top of the food chain, you've got to start at the bottom and you've got to work your way up, because each successive rung of criminal activity is one less rung that those people higher up are going to be able to count on if they need to call in their chips and they need something to happen. At this point, because we're going after all of these criminally illegal aliens, that leaves the lowest rung as Antifa and the radical left, which we see they have not been successful in their attempts to commit attacks of terror and criminal activity on the American people. The closest they got was in Texas. They tried to take over an entire ICE office, and they were dispatched pretty quickly. And we've seen other cases of domestic terrorism come out of groups exactly like this. they're finding that when you are an adult man and you take estrogen, your bones, your muscles, your tendons, everything gets a little bit weaker and your brain doesn't work in the same way. So you don't have the same cunning and military acumen that you would need if you're going to take on some special operators, okay? So President Trump needs to take out all of these illegal aliens. Now, here is some examples of some of the people that we've taken out in Minneapolis. DHS posted that what Governor Walz and Mayor Fry have refused to do is arrest these people who are guilty of some terrible, terrible things. Just yesterday, during Operation Metro Surge, which is the operation taking place in the Twin Cities, ICE arrested the worst of the worst, including rapists, armed robbers, and drug traffickers. And under President Trump and Secretary Noem, law and order has returned. We must reestablish the enforcement of law across America. They have not done this for many years. People like these individuals here, they've been allowed to get away with whatever they wanted. And for being allowed to traffic children, to peddle drugs, to rob people at gunpoint, they were living their best life in these Democrat hellholes. And if it was necessary, I think they probably would have done just about anything that they were asked to do if they were called for a favor.
The worst of the worst. I think we have some mugshots here to show you their criminal history. These guys that you're looking at here on the screen includes rape, armed robbery, and also drug trafficking. So again, they're going after who they consider the worst of the worst. The administration says more than 2,000 arrests have been made since Operation Metro Surge began on November 29th. That's when they first had that initial wave, Nicole. But we're talking about more agents and officers coming here. There's been some confusion about the numbers. There were already 2,000 federal agents and officers that surged here last week. Now we're looking at an additional 1,000, with hundreds already deploying to the area. About 800 are on standby to be deployed to the area.
So we may very soon have nearly 4,000 agents on the ground in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And that says nothing about the other investigators, which are coming in to do the boots on the ground work in terms of like following that money, raiding these offices, getting the paperwork, preparing to have these people deported. There is so much that is taking place. And please, people must accept and understand how twisted this system has become under administrations past. Because we're talking about decades of entrenched illegality and criminal activity that simply was never addressed. Now, before we talk about Renee Nicole Good, I'd like to show you this video of a white liberal woman who is getting absolutely flamed on social media. In solidarity with Renee Nicole Good, she chose to post a dramatic, preachy TikTok video and shave her, frankly, very well-grown and beautiful thick hair for her leftist audience, except she got something very wrong. She says, "We watched Renee Cook get brutally gunned down by ICE. ICE has shot at least 3 other people before this, and countless others have suffered and disappeared because of them. I'm sick of feeling helpless and like there's nothing I can do. So here's my peaceful protest." This woman has accomplished nothing other than letting her audience know that she's as stupid as they come. Because who in the hell is Renee Cook? She don't exist, and she wasn't shot by ICE. And look, watch her crying. This is performative. This is the definition of performative right here. And I do want to say, she doesn't look half bad with a bald head. It could go one of two ways. You could look like you shouldn't shave your head, or you could look like, hey, it's really not that big of a deal. She kind of looks like G.I. Jane, if I can be honest. But no tears. She's breathing, huffing, and puffing as if she's crying, though. Joining the resistance. But yeah, Renee Cook don't exist, woman. Yeah, I would think that you'd want to do just a little bit of research before you made a decision you can't walk back from, like shaving your head for your TikTok audience. What a moron. All right, now, we also have had several prosecutors clean themselves out from DOJ's Civil Rights Division. Now, they are protesting. They're doing their peaceful protest because the Civil Rights Division has allegedly refused to probe the shooting of Renee Nicole Good. I'll say her name just to underscore the useless nature of her death. At least 4 prosecutors have self-deleted from the DOJ Civil Rights Division in protest because Harmeet Dillon has told them that we're not going to look into the killing of Renee Nicole Good because the agent that shot her did so in self-defense. Because obviously we've got that new cell phone footage showing that she was not afraid for her life. She gleefully threw it into drive as her wife was screaming, "Drive, baby, drive!" And she drove straight at the ICE agent. She hit him with her vehicle, with her Honda Passport. It's a very big SUV, comparatively speaking. So the Civil Rights Division is cleaning itself out. I am perfectly okay with that. Like, more, please, do it again. So these 4 leaders, they're being called, at the Justice Department that investigate police killings have resigned in protest after the administration decided to handle this shooting in a particular way. These top leaders at the criminal section of the Civil Rights Division have left their jobs to register their frustration with the department after Harmeet Dillon decided not to investigate. Now, the criminal section of the division would normally investigate any fatal shooting of a law enforcement officer by a law enforcement officer and specializes in probing potential or alleged abuse or improper use of law enforcement. Well, thank God we've got so much video showing that Renee Nicole Good basically put a bullet in her own head. The departures, including that of the chief of the section, as well as the principal deputy chief, and acting deputy chief, represent the most significant mass resignation at the Justice Department since February. Now, you'll remember Harmeet Dillon said a whole bunch of lefties already decided to remove themselves from the department when she took over, and she basically told them the direction that they were going to go, that the Civil Rights Division was going to be used to actually protect the civil rights of the American people. So at the time, 5 leaders and supervisors at the Department of Justice's Public Integrity section, which also was disbanded, they investigate public officials for possible corruption. They resigned rather than comply with an appointee of President Donald Trump's orders to dismiss the bribery case against then New York Mayor Eric Adams. Patty Nine Fingers says, say her fake name. Renee Cook. Say it with me now. Renee Cook. Remember Renee Cook. If only to remember that woman shaving her head for nothing at all. Lee Walden says, Zach, I'm just thinking if I could get some close friends as a man on the street and report every now and then, I would do it. If they let me out of my padded cell. Kidding, it's not padded. That's funny. Darla says, praying for the safety of all LEOs, knowing the leftist liberal lunatic fringe is going against their own best interests. Too ignorant to realize it. You are absolutely correct. We're going to talk about that here in just a moment. However, there may be something deeper to these resignations. Now, Shipwreck Crew is a DOJ prosecutor, was for 22 years. He also was an attorney for many different January 6th defendants. And he says, let me tell you the real reason why the 4 prosecutors in the civil rights criminal section resigned. It all has to do with the death of Breonna Taylor. Well, that certainly piqued my interest. You might remember that Louisville police officer Brett Hankinson was retried after a jury in his first federal trial ended 11-1 for acquittal. These 4 individuals were part of the leadership team that agitated to retry him. Hankinson had already been acquitted in state court trial. Hankinson did not fire the round that killed Taylor. No one was struck by any round that Hankinson fired. Hankinson was convicted in a second trial in November 2024, with the verdict coming just prior to the election. After the Trump administration took over DOJ and civil rights, it asked to have the sentencing postponed so new leadership could examine the history of the case and the decision-making behind retrying a case that had ended 11-1 for acquittal after a 12-0 acquittal in state court. So the DOJ filed a sentencing memorandum that said it could find no case ever that had been prosecuted on the legal theory relied upon by those DOJ prosecutors and supervisors who were behind the Hankinson case. It as a cause to get one police officer. The civil rights prosecutors who had handled that case were removed by Assistant Attorney General Dillon, and both have since left the office. In the sentencing memoranda, DOJ recommended a sentence of time served 1 day, given the conduct of the Biden DOJ. The judge was unhappy. She had expressed a clear dislike of Hankinson and was cowed by the protesters in and out of the courtroom. She sentenced him to 33 months and denied him bail pending appeal, even though the DOJ did not oppose and agreed that there were significant legal issues with the conviction. The Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals agreed with Hankinson and the DOJ, and they ordered him released pending appeal just before Christmas. So the DOJ is likely to concede error by the Biden civil rights prosecutors, who were supported by the now resigned leadership, the people who allegedly left because we were not going to investigate the ICE officer. So now you know the rest of the story. And Shipwreck Crew has an article he's working on in regards to Hankinson's case that focuses on the conduct of the judge, who was actually a Trump appointee, but more important, a McConnell acolyte. So that will be coming out in the near future. I'll be looking for it. And I think that this makes a lot of sense. All right. Now, let's talk about those liberal left-wing dingbats who are acting in the exact opposite of what is their own best interest. There is a lot of leftists on TikTok who are talking about physically going after ICE, killing them, arming themselves so that they can use their Second Amendment. Let me tell you, it's not your Second Amendment if your intention is to go out and commit murder. That's just not how it works. Then you are doing something which you are criminally liable for. So a Chinese man posting on TikTok is goading Americans to start a revolution, and more importantly, it would apply to all of us, compile lists of people who wave the American flag to target when the revolution starts. If I've got any leftists in my neighborhood that want to go ahead and make a list of people with American flags and guns, I would definitely be on that list. So take a listen to this commie influencer from China.
If you have an American flag in front of your house, swipe away. Do not watch this video. Okay, there's about 10% Americans want a revolution. It's too early, but it's not too early to prepare for the revolution. Let me share with you a business plan to prepare for the revolution. Right now, it's 2026. If some households still have an American flag in front of their house, that means those people are supporting the American system. They are your enemy, and they will be your enemy when the revolution starts. Before you eat the rich, you need more resources and weapons. Where to get all these resources and weapons? Get it from those households who got American flag in front of their house.
See, as you can see, the more you around, the more you're going to find out.
This is not going to go well if anybody takes this advice. I'm just going to say that right now. If anybody was to come to my house and try to take anything that I own, they are going to find themselves with a new breathing apparatus, let's say.
Okay, so you guys also need to have a community and set up a website and ask all your members to take picture of every household who got American flag and upload those information to your website at the address of each household. When the time comes, you guys can use this information as evidence to eat them first. Eat them, God will support you. Buddha will support you. Eat them with no regret, okay? So this is my business plan for you. When the time comes, some household, they will pay you a lot of money just to take off those information off your website.
Now, I don't think any of you should be afraid that this is really going to happen. It very well may. This is the kind of crazy shit these commies do. But I also have full faith in you and your ability to protect your castle and continue to proudly and prominently display your American flags. Nobody should be worried about this. However, you should be informed that this is the kind of thing that I would expect them to do in the future. Now, it is getting wild out there. These people are committing crimes online by threatening ICE agents and federal officials and Donald Trump supporters. They are really kicking it up a notch. Take a listen to this disturbed individual, Gan A-I-M-N. He must be from Minnesota.
See, I've been fully activated. I'm going to head back east. We need to go to D.C. Shit needs to get done. Here's the thing that I need for protesters and everyone to start realizing, okay? We're at war. The protests are over. There's no more protesting. This is combat now. So when I come onto the field, I'm not screaming at people that are going to assault me or pepper spray me. Like, no, this is combat. I'm going to engage them in combat because we have shit that needs to be done. This is how we get shit done. Okay? We're not protesting anymore. We're fighting.
He is literally glowing. Look at that glow on his chest.
You understand? Like, I need for you to stop with the signs. And I need for you to get shields and swords of the pew-pew kind. Like, I need for you to wake the fuck up. We're at war. It's wartime. It's time to go to war. You know how your military father or your military friends were always telling you freedom isn't free? Like, you're about to find out. Like, you're about to get it. So figure it fucking out. Stop protesting. It's fight time. Okay? I'll see you there.
I don't know if that was worth the accolades he's going to receive on social media, but this man is not going to be successful. The left is not going to successfully rise up against the majority of America and fight ICE, okay? This is just not how it's going to work. But I invite them to try. Please, please try. Because when and if you do, there will be an appropriate and overwhelming response from the people you attempt to take out and from the forces of the U.S. government. Now, this is a compilation. I figure we'll just get it out of our system. All of these videos, this poster says, have been sent to the appropriate agencies, and every single one of these videos includes leftists on TikTok incriminating themselves, begging to be arrested, threatening the lives of Homeland Security, ICE officials, Donald Trump, the federal government. Enjoy.
This can't be happening!
These people are in full meltdown mode.
Hey, kill these ICE agents, bro.
Do the thing that you're supposed to do. Utilize the Second Amendment.
They are going to murder us all. Hello?
Is that bulletproof vest even bulletproof anymore?
Fuck ICE! This can't be happening!
Fucking pathetic worm.
You know, these pussy-ass ICE motherfuckers, they're gonna start catching a hell of a lot more than snowballs.
Like, if you wear an ICE badge, from now on, I would expect people to start magnapping you.
I encourage everyone who sees this video to bear arms and practice your Second Amendment right.
They're minding their business. Boo! That's how we need to start doing them.
We're not gonna go get justice. We're gonna go get revenge. We're gonna round up a whole lot of motherfuckers.
Hey, if you're an ICE agent, this might be a good time to kiss your spouse and kids goodbye, because you know what? You might not be coming home tomorrow.
Was that just her? There are a lot of people.
Gang, they done found you and your whole family.
Oh, if you slime the fuck out of an ICE agent, just say you were with me, and I'll corroborate the story.
Like, hello? Knock, knock, knock. Are you home? Wake up!
Rage. Rage.
Fuck, I hate it here!
The YNs know we about to go into martial law.
We need these YNs to step up. These young boys that's running around these ski masks, these super United States gangsters.
I'm trying to figure out why we're not shooting them.
Are we fucking great yet? Are we a great country?
Yes.
It's fucking great.
Remember, people, if a masked man tries to kidnap you, put a bullet in his fucking face.
I'm really questioning when the left's gonna start playing Papa Cop. Tag DHS, I am Antifa.
It's time to purchase my Second Amendment or get the fuck out of this country, and I haven't decided which one I want to do yet.
Get on with you.
I'm not even giving you the opportunity.
Not everybody has the stomach or the wherewithal for what needs to happen next.
And you know she don't. Look at her. Look at this Harry Potter lookalike laying in her bed talking about other people getting out there and engaging in street justice against federal agents. GTFO.
You're not getting out of this through voting.
No questions. We don't need to be asking no questions. We just need to, whoa, hey, sir, boom. That's all I need to do. That's all we need to be doing.
I don't want a vigil. I want Molotovs.
So yeah, DHS, FBI, you might want to look into a few of these.
Now, as the DHS and the Department of Justice have shown us, they don't have a problem charging and prosecuting people like every single one of those retards that you just saw in that video. Let's see. So, Patty Nine Fingers says, don't sing it, just bring it. Pinko commie bastard. And he also says, didn't Alpha get rolled up for way less than this? Yes. Yes, he did. Jim Kyle says, it's like these asshats. Trump is not my president. Well, it's President Trump. Yes, it is President Trump. Lee Walden says, I have a new clown control method. It's water jello squirt guns, car batteries, and jumper cables, and a slip-in slide. That is certainly innovatively. All right, now, jumping into the fray in Minneapolis, this ICE agent was accosted outside of an HSI raid, and he was getting berated by some type of like an ICE Watch patroller who was hanging out, I guess, at a school. Take a look at this, man. He basically just drops her on her face.
I don't care what they told you. If you guys get in my way, I will arrest you.
Sir, we're just observing. Please calm down.
You can observe all you want.
I am observing. Do you see
back.
me in the way? I am back.
You had anger issues as a kid, didn't you? Were your parents present? You should be ashamed of yourself, man.
He is.
I love my job. Thank you.
You love your job?
He said, I love my job. Thank you.
I can't believe I get paid for this.
Yeah, really?
I do this for free.
Really, I get $200K. I'm a physician assistant.
How long did you go to school for that?
Over 7 years.
I went to high school. I make $200K.
People regard me as someone valuable in society. What about you? Is yours says prestige? No, it doesn't. Come out and report if you can.
How long did you go to school for that? 7 years? Well, I went to high school, and I make more than you do. Bump, 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 bump. All right. Now, yesterday, as ICE agents in St. Cloud, Minnesota, attempted to storm and arrest illegal alien Somalis and Somali scammers, they were quite literally outrun by a crowd of Somalis and probably a fair number of those ICE Watch people. So the Somalis showed up and they started screaming, ICE out, ICE out. ICE agents were forced to deploy tear gas just so that they could disperse the crowd. They were blocking their vehicles. They were stopping them from exiting the parking lot. And Democrat State Senator Eric Putnam was also spotted amidst the crowd, trying to act as a barrier between the protesters and the federal agents. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the video that was revealed. Take a look right here. You can see hundreds of Somalis show up to try to stop ICE from doing what they are lawfully tasked with doing. Gotta turn it down. Jeez, Pete. Whew. Again, insufferable is the only word that comes to mind. So here they are, before it all popped off. They were arresting someone. The beautiful language of Somalia. Sounds like a dog choking to death. God, these people are like gremlins. You get them wet, you let them eat after midnight, and everything goes to shit. So, ICE was, of course, not to be deterred. Here in what is, I can only suggest, is a supreme, example of patience being completely exhausted. A ICE Watch member attempted to block an ICE vehicle at a stoplight. And the agent just said, you know what, I've had enough. Just pushed the protester through the light and continued on his way. At that point, they realized that a Corolla was no match for the Jeep Grand Cherokee or Grand Wagoneer, whatever they call them nowadays. Yes, they need to go harder. They need to go harder. They're being so patient. And obviously, when you got 200 screaming gutter dogs coming and screaming in your face and waving their phones at you and telling you to leave, it gets a little bit difficult. Now, here is an example in town of someone attempting to impede the work of ICE, and they get the F around find out part. Hog tie him. He's not resisting. Yeah, right. Nothing more emasculating than having a pile of 4 dudes on top of you and forcing you into a prone position. Now, here is another example. An Antifa TikToker also agitating leftists to head out into the streets armed and take on ICE. Now, this guy is publicly a member of Antifa. His name is Dinesh Noshirvan, and he too has crossed a dangerous line. He is a big-time TikToker. He's got a huge following. He is also calling for organized, armed, left-wing militias to confront ICE agents and federal law enforcement all across America. He says that Trump's racist army is what ICE is, and he's urging followers to physically block agents and then force them out of communities. This is illegal. This is very illegal what this man is doing. I hope that they find him because, again, we have his full name, Dinesh Noshirvan. This is not just harmless rhetoric online.
We need to find solutions here. Every major city in the U.S., Los Angeles, Portland, Chicago, New York, you need to start setting up left-wing militias to protect your communities. I'm not kidding. This needs to be coordinated. And you guys should all be in touch, too, across cities. We need organized left-wing militias. There are too many right-wing extremist militias putting us all in danger. We need to defend ourselves. We need to have a group of people that stand there, a well-regulated militia that stands there when ICE shows up, because nobody is holding them accountable. The people need to hold them accountable for when they go too far, for when they're not welcome. In fact, let me be honest with you, they're never welcome. They're never welcome. When ICE shows up in your community, a militia should show up right in front of them and tell them to leave. It is your right as an American. Shortly after murdering Renee Good, ICE agents went to a local high school that was on lockdown and assaulted the students when they came out of class. This wouldn't have happened if a militia would have kicked them out of town. Defend yourselves against Trump's personal pedo racist army. Fight back against ICE. Just because they're federal agents does not mean they get to violate you. They killed all that was good. Let's show them what's left.
That's not going to work out too good for you, Dinesh. You are going to find yourself with some criminal charges, and you are going to be arrested. Now, before we continue, I have a very brief message from our friends over here on Rumble. You guys, I want to take just a brief moment to tell you about a law that was recently passed. President Trump legalized hemp in 2018, but legislation only just passed that bans almost all CBD and hemp products by November. Now, hemp is not the same thing as marijuana. Hemp is a historic American commodity. George Washington grew it. Some colonies required a percentage of crops to be hemp, and colonists would even pay taxes with their hemp. In 1930, before it was banned the first time, hemp was used in 25,000 American products, and it generated $1 billion a year. For perspective, that equaled 25% of the federal budget. Hemp holds a tremendous potential for America's economy in the modern age. But here's what's happening. A few powerful groups of pharma and marijuana-tied lobbyists have been pushing for this ban. The legislation makes CBD and hemp products scientifically and financially impossible to make, and that affects 325,000 American jobs. It wipes out thousands of American innovations, and these innovations range from energy alternatives to durable building materials, even biodegradable plastic alternatives, which reduce microplastics and our dependence on Chinese products. This bill will affect a lot of you and America in ways that you are unaware of. So click the Emerald Med link below to learn about this bill and how to fight the ban. The company Emerald Med, who helps support channels like ours with ads, has been fighting this ban. They fought vaccine mandates during COVID, and they reached 120 million views in ads fighting those mandates. Now they're fighting this ban, and they need your help. So click the link below and learn more. You can also use that QR code that you see on screen. Thank you very much to Emerald Med and Rumble. Patty Ninefinger says, are you sure you want that? Oh, wait, hold on. I got to go here.
You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure about that?
Yeah, I don't think they're sure about that. They don't really know what they are asking for or signing up for. Now, we're really getting into it here. Mayor Jacob Fry just went on a podcast. I want to say that this guy used to work for the Obama administration, but he was asked whether or not local police can arrest ICE. Now, you know, and I know that local police cannot arrest ICE, but Jacob Fry has an interesting answer.
You're basically asking, can our cops arrest them?
Yeah.
From a legal perspective, yes. From a practical perspective, to state the reality, yeah, it does get kind of hard when they drastically outnumber us and they have bigger guns than we do. It does. And here's the thing. We don't want to create warfare in the street. We want to keep our communities safe. We're trying our very best to do that. So nobody, our police officers, ICE agents, civilians, nobody can act illegally. Nobody can. And so we're trying to find the best way to prevent these ICE agents from acting illegally while not causing a firestorm on the street. Am I saying it won't happen? No, I'm not saying it won't happen. What I'm saying is, like, you know, I am in charge of keeping the peace and directing our police officers, and I got to keep everybody safe. And so I can't.
So ICE is obviously not acting illegally. Everybody knows they're not acting illegally. Jacob Fry knows they're not acting illegally. Nothing illegal is happening. This is the reason they exist, is to round up these illegal aliens with final orders of deportation that they have ignored for years. Criminals who have no business being here in the United States of America. People like Jacob Fry and Tim Walz are putting people at risk. They are causing dangerous actions to take place on a daily basis. Jacob Fry knows that ICE is within their legally prescribed mandate. And so everything he says is merely designed to try to pit the public against these federal law enforcement agents, to try to push them into a bad situation. I'm sure he loves that Renee Nicole Good, got shot in the head. Because, of course, that was going to radicalize a certain portion of society. That's why we're seeing all these videos of people calling for armed insurrection against the federal government. Again, try it. Let's see what happens.
Admit to anything.
It's crazy that you're even there, right? I can't commit one way or the other to deal with how our law enforcement officials should deal with rogue federal law enforcement.
Well, he can't commit one way or the other because there was nothing illegal happening and he knows it. So he's using this sort of abstract language to describe the work that ICE is doing on a regular basis because he knows there's a lot of brain dead liberals out there who don't have the full story, who are not going to research even to learn the full legal name of Renee Nicole Good, and they're simply going to act on instinct and emotion.
And it's like, these are the guys that are the don't tread on me guys. And they have federal agents coming into your city, menacing your citizens who aren't doing anything illegally. And you've got to have separation of powers discussions in the mayor's office. It's crazy.
The bottom line is we are working on every strategy that is available to protect our residents, and where illegality is taking place, where people are being mistreated and hurt, our officers are going to be there to help the best they can to keep people safe. Now, what that action looks like.
Keep in mind that they have a lot of social workers that are LARPing as law enforcement officers in places like Minnesota.
Obviously depends on the situation. Again, the goal that they're trying to get to is they got to keep people safe. Anybody can get arrested. Anybody.
As long as they do something illegal, but ICE is not doing anything illegal. Well, it's very interesting that he said that they are working on every single possible way they can fight back. And that's exactly what's happening. Jacob Fry and Keith Ellison have just announced that they are, of course, suing the Trump administration. They want to end Operation Metro Surge. Minnesota's top law enforcement officer is Keith Ellison. He is directly implicated in the scam. So is Jacob Fry. We spoke about him and his wife yesterday. And the other mayor for the other Twin City was up there with him as well. I don't know their name. They are less performative, less out there. This is, in and of itself, dramatic, an action to take. It is also unconstitutional. And because of the separation of powers, the structure of our government, they are not going to be able to get ICE to leave. However, that doesn't mean they are not going to find a sympathetic local judge to take on this case and find in their favor, at least initially. So the other mayor is of St. Paul. That's Mayor Kaholi Her. So they've joined together and they are suing DHS. And the lawsuit filed by these three seeks to completely end what they deem an unprecedented surge of more than 2,000 federal agents, now closer to 3,000. They also allege that the federal government has violated the 10th Amendment of the Constitution by removing Minnesota's right to police itself. Well, they're not enforcing the law, so I think they have removed their own right. During a press conference where they announced the lawsuit, Ellison accused DHS of causing serious harm, and the Trump administration has launched a federal invasion. The deployment of thousands of armed masked agents to Minnesota has done this state serious harm. This is essentially a federal invasion of Minnesota and the Twin Cities, and it must stop, he said.
The deployment of thousands of armed, masked DHS agents to Minnesota has done our state serious harm. This is, in essence, a federal invasion of the Twin Cities and Minnesota, and it must stop.
The only harm that's been done to Minnesota is by these individuals. Now, he also, of course, had to play the race card. He accused ICE agents of racially profiling Minnesota residents and shutting down businesses. It ain't my fault, bro, that 90% of the fraud has been done by people of color, people of a very specific ethnic origin, that being Somalian. People are being racially profiled, he said, harassed, terrorized, and assaulted. Schools have gone into lockdown. Businesses have been forced to close because there are illegals working there and they don't want to get arrested. Minnesota police are spending countless hours dealing with the chaos ICE is causing. Flip the script. It's actually the residents of Minnesota that are causing the chaos. The federal invasion of the Twin Cities has to stop. So I am suing the DHS. Also, during this press conference, Jacob Fry had to speak. He got up there and doubled down on these remarks.
What people are dealing with, man.
Yeah. I mean, we don't use the word invasion lightly. What we are seeing is thousands, plural, thousands of federal agents coming into our city. And yeah, they're having a tremendous impact on day-to-day life. And it's a negative one. And whether that's kids that are trying to get to school or businesses that are trying to open, that's police officers that are responding to 911 calls. It's just about being able to conduct daily life right here in our city. And look, this is not about fraud.
It absolutely is about fraud. And it's also about illegal immigration. It's also about a whole host of other crimes that are being committed by the people you are protecting, Jacob Fry. The same people who bought you.
When you have a fraudster, you investigate, you charge, you prosecute, you hold the person accountable, and then they get put in jail as an individual. They get put in jail as an individual. You do not hold an entire community or an entire city accountable for the actions of the fraudsters. That's not a novel concept. That's just the way this works in American society, and we should be abiding by that.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And
yeah, good job slobbing that knob. ICE Director Todd Lyons, of course, had to respond. Let's listen.
Amendment, but we're not asking, any government agency in Minnesota to do immigration law for us, so I don't see how that's an overreach. What we're doing is we're doing our lawful law enforcement mission that Congress has on the books. So to me, obviously now it's pending litigation. I'm not going to go too much in it, but there were a lot of allegations there. That's a lot to unpack. And, I was sitting here listening to this whole entire press conference. And, the one comment right off the bat that just strikes me is that, we don't show a warrant for arrest. Well, Title VIII under the Immigration Nationality Act, ICE doesn't need a warrant to make that arrest. So there's a lot that I don't think they understand about what ICE is doing, and the allegations are just really sad.
Well, let's talk about a few of those.
Yeah, these people are fundamentally misinformed about the way this system works and what ICE is legally permitted to do and the way that they are legally permitted to do it. Wounds are us. Oh, thank you for reminding me. The St. Paul mayor, who was just sworn in, has admitted on more than one occasion that she is an illegal alien. I really hope that they arrest her. Maybe that's why she hasn't been out there as loud and proud as Jacob Fry, because he's got that white privilege and that Somali money. She hasn't been in office for very long. Now, President Trump has given a stern and severe warning to Minnesota Democrats after this announcement that they were suing. Let's take a look at his statement. President Trump's announcement right here. Do the people of Minnesota really want to live in a community in which there are thousands of already convicted murderers, drug dealers, addicts, rapists, violent, released, and escaped prisoners, dangerous people from foreign mental institutions and insane asylums, and other deadly criminals too dangerous to even mention? All the patriots of ICE want to do is to remove them from your neighborhood and send them back to the prisons and mental institutions from whence they came, most in foreign countries who illegally entered the United States of America through sleepy Joe Biden's horrible open borders policy. Every place we go, crime goes down. In Chicago, despite a weak and incompetent governor and mayor fighting us all the way, a big improvement was made. Thousands of criminals were removed. Minnesota Democrats love the unrest that anarchists and professional agitators are causing because it gets the spotlight off the $19 billion that was stolen by really bad and deranged people. Fear not, great people of Minnesota. The day of reckoning and retribution is coming. We are coming for you. And no matter what Jacob Fry and Keith Ellison attempt to do, they will not be successful. Now, President Trump mentioned Illinois for a very specific reason, because Illinois has also joined in. They are also suing the DHS, ICE, and Customs and Border Patrol. Why? Because, of course, they are enforcing federal law. So now the Attorney General of Illinois had his own press conference shortly after the press conference in Minnesota. Let's take a listen. After I get past this ad. Oh, that's an ad for me.
Tear gas, chemical weapons, rubber bullets, masked men carrying semi-automatic rifles and instruments of war as they intimidate, harass, and assault.
I get so annoyed when they say semi-automatic rifles. They're probably full auto. Let's be real. These are federal agents. I mean, the only way it would be not a semi-automatic rifle is if it was full auto or if it was a bolt gun.
These hallmarks of a war zone seen on movie screens have no place in an American city, much less at a daycare center, courthouses, in our neighborhoods, or outside our children's schools. When I took my oath to serve as the Illinois Attorney General, I swore to uphold and defend the United States and Illinois constitutions. I could never have envisioned standing here today defending the rule of law and our state's sovereignty against attacks by the United States government. But I will not hesitate or shy away from protecting our state, even from our own federal government. Because since September, the state of Illinois has faced an incursion of uniformed, military-trained personnel carrying semi-automatic firearms and military-grade weaponry. These Border Patrol agents and ICE officers have acted as occupiers rather than officers of the law, as they have rampaged through the Chicago area, arbitrarily interrogating and arresting residents and attacking them with chemical weapons. The repeated invasions of private property, wrongful arrests, illegal interrogations, and violent confrontations have not made our city or state safer.
Nothing that he said is based in reality. Now, this guy has presided over one of the worst examples of rising criminal activity in Illinois in modern recorded history. Of course, Mayor Brandon Johnson does nothing to address the daily and weekly mass shootings that take place in turf wars between gang members. So, I thought that we hear a lot from the left and what they think about ICE. But what about the people in Minnesota who are not crazy, who are not lunatics? Here's an example of somebody who witnessed an ICE arrest, and she was very grateful.
You know, I love the fucking suburb I'm in. So ICE was just in my suburb at our local grocery store while I was there, and they were grabbing somebody. Nobody in the grocery store stopped them from doing their job. Everybody was clapping and excited about ICE being there. People were hooting and hollering, chanting for ICE. You gotta love small towns in Minnesota, honestly. We are so fucking stoked. And honestly, you know what I did after the ICE agents got done with their job and what they were doing? I said, can I buy you all, something to drink, something to eat? And I did. And I sure fucking did, because you know what? I'm excited that ICE is in Minnesota. Really excited. I'm not going to tell you the suburb I'm in, but it's close to Stillwater. We'll just leave it at that. Best thing I've seen today is watching an ICE agent arrest somebody and send them back to where they came from. Love it. Super happy about it. Love the suburb I live in because there was no protesting. Nobody stopped them. Nobody did because no one gives a shit. We want them gone.
We want them gone. And that is the sentiment of the majority of America. You know, the number of people who are decrying the actions of ICE agents are exceedingly small. Now, after the announcement of these lawsuits by Illinois and Minnesota, President Trump did the thing that we reported he was planning to do, and that was the revocation of temporary protected status for the thousands of Somalians living in America. So it was previously reported that President Trump was going to do this. Now it has actually happened. The Trump administration earlier today revoked temporary protected status for anyone here from Somalia with that designation. Now, by my estimation, there is roughly 6,000 to 7,000 Somali TPS recipients in Minnesota. This also includes anybody anywhere in the United States. Actually, maybe it's 6,000 to 7,000 total in the United States because this says several hundred in Minnesota under TPS. Now, Kristi Noem had previously said temporary means temporary. TPS is temporary protected status. The conditions in Somalia have improved to the point where it no longer meets the requirements under the law for TPS to be granted. So this allows Somali nationals to remain temporarily in the United States, and now they can return to their home. It is contrary to our national interest to allow them to stay indefinitely. We are putting Americans first. Now, Fox is reporting that there are approximately 2,471 Somali nationals who officially have TPS in the United States. 1,383 have pending TPS applications, and 600 Somali nationals with TPS live in Minnesota. They were first granted this in 1991 under George H.W. Bush, and then it extended under the Biden regime until September of 2024. Now, of course, this is, in my opinion, something that needed to be done quite a long time ago. We can't get these people out of the country fast enough. And look at this meme that Homeland Security posted after this announcement was made. It's President Trump saying, "I am the captain now. Look at me. Look at me. I'm the captain now. The Don is the captain now." So you can GTFO, make your way back to Somalia. We don't need you here. You're not wanted. We don't need to have TPS for anybody as far as I'm concerned. Get them the hell out of this country. Now, in addition to this, about 1.4 million illegal aliens have now been issued a final order of removal and have not left the country. Here is a notice of that final order of removal. This was handed out back in October of 2024. So they are on notice to get the hell out of our country. And this is actually what's considered due process for any morons who might be out there listening to the sound of my voice. Due process is afforded illegal aliens when they come here and they go through immigration court. Once they've gotten this final order of removal, that's the end of their due process. And when ICE comes into your neighborhood and they arrest them, they don't have to show a warrant. They can round them up and they can take them out and they can put them where they belong. Now, as part of President Trump's commitment to enhance the capabilities and operational safety of the United States of America, the Muslim Brotherhood chapters in a number of regions have been designated as terrorist organizations. This is as prescribed in Executive Order 14362. The United States of America is imposing these terrorist designations against the Lebanese, Jordanian, and Egyptian chapters of the Muslim Brotherhood. If you'll remember, the Egyptian chapter of the Muslim Brotherhood is who Obama put in power after the Arab Spring, which was really just a false flag coup d'etat color revolution perpetrated by the Central Intelligence Agency. So the State Department has designated the Lebanese Muslim Brotherhood as a foreign terrorist organization and a specially designated global terrorist organization, and the group's leader, Mohammed Fawzi Takush, as a specially designated global terrorist. Concurrently, the Department of Treasury is designating the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood and Jordanian Muslim Brotherhood as specially designated global terrorists for providing material support to Hamas. These designations reflect the opening actions of an ongoing, sustained effort to thwart Muslim Brotherhood chapters' violence and destabilization. Wherever it occurs, the United States will use all available tools to deprive these Muslim Brotherhood chapters of the resources to engage in or support terrorism. Now, we've also got some stunning news coming out of the state of Michigan. A county clerk in Macomb County, Michigan, Clerk Anthony Forlini, held a press conference to announce a discovery that is shocking and should be shocking to anybody, but most of all to law enforcement officials, specifically in the state of Michigan. It occurs that on Michigan voter rolls, after an examination of jury pool records, the 16th Judicial Court in Macomb County found that there were a significant number of illegal aliens who were on the jury rolls and were found to have also been registered to vote and were actually voting. So Forlini explained that he became alarmed after he and a group of supervisors found a number of non-citizens asking to be dismissed from jury duty during a meeting convened to address low juror turnout. Approximately 40% of those who are sent notices for jury duty actually are qualified to show up. In trying to come up with a solution, we came upon the problem of an unreasonable number of non-citizens who present their green card as an excuse to be dismissed. They should not be on those rolls in the first place. So the question is, why would the Secretary of State's office use a list that includes non-citizens who are essentially being asked to break the law and appear on a jury pool in the first place? You see, non-citizens, these would be lawful permanent residents, green card holders, temporary visa holders, or even illegal aliens, are explicitly not qualified. They are disqualified from participating as a member of a jury. Potential jurors must be a U.S. citizen. They must be 18 years of age at least. They are randomly selected from sources like voter registration lists or driver's license records. And that begs the question, if non-citizens are being asked to appear on a jury, what's to stop them from receiving voter registration requests from the state or from third parties? Now, during his press conference, Macomb County Clerk Anthony Forlini, who also is running to become the Republican candidate for the Secretary of State in Michigan, revealed an astounding 239 non-citizens had asked to be removed from the jury pool during a 4-month period in Macomb County. Forlini told the Gateway Pundit once he discovered these 239 non-citizens were being asked to serve on juries, he wondered how many of them were also registered to vote. The thought occurred to me, how is it possible that non-citizens were even put on a jury pool to begin with? The list is coming to us directly from the Secretary of State's office. So he asked his team to cross-check those 239 non-citizens who refused to perform jury duty with the Michigan voter rolls. And what he found is, according to the Michigan Qualified Voter File rolls, 14 of them were already registered to vote at some point. 10 of them were still on the voter rolls, and of those 10 citizens found on Michigan's voter rolls from a very small sample, because Michigan's a much larger state than just Macomb County, 4 of them appear to have voted, and 1 of them voted multiple times. We asked Anthony Forlini for the names of the voters, but he would not provide them. Forlini assured the public that all of these cases would be referred to the proper authorities, but you'll see how that's going to turn out. Non-citizens are coming through at an alarming rate. Our jury service summons are based on random draws from the driver's license bank. Frequently, non-citizens slip through because citizenship was not flagged by the Secretary of State database. So he explained, currently someone who applies for a driver's license is automatically registered to vote unless they decline in the state of Michigan. If someone is presented with a voter registration form, there's a checkbox for citizenship. But if the checkbox is checked for, yes, I am a citizen, It's the honor system. The form is processed even if the applicant is not actually a citizen or is too stupid to understand the question. Unlike some states, Michigan does not currently use a federal citizenship database, despite the fact that Harmeet Dillon and the Civil Rights Division has attempted to force them to do so. They've also failed to hand over those voter files. With this system, they would be able to verify at the federal level and confirm whether or not that status is correct at the time of registration. So the clerk for Forlini says, we must find a way for the driver's license database to confirm citizenship. Many times there may be a language barrier in the best possible instance, and applicants do not understand what they are signing. If this is not addressed, we risk compromising our jury trials and our elections. Spoiler alert, it's already being compromised. One possibility is to take advantage of new breakthroughs in linking several databases, where one database is able to flag another database for actual citizenship verification. When a Chinese student at the University of Michigan turned himself in for voting early in the 2024 Michigan election, Michigan's Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, who is also currently running for governor, assured everyone that it was a rare case of a non-citizen casting a ballot in Michigan elections, and she bragged about how they caught him, even though he had already voted, and he actually reported himself for doing so. So this discovery by Forlini should sound the alarm for everyone in any state like Michigan, because if it can happen in Michigan, it can happen pretty much anywhere. Now, the state of Michigan has 7.9 million registered voters. And somehow that is a 100% of eligible voting citizens registered to vote in Michigan. That is statistically impossible. Every single person who could vote in Michigan is not registered to vote. That makes no sense. The only thing that makes sense is that fraud is taking place, exactly as Mr. Forlini was able to demonstrate. Now, take a listen to this. Shoot, where is that tweet? Oh, no. I must have accidentally deleted the tweet from the press conference. Hold on just a second, because I really wanted to play that. Oh, man, did I not bookmark it? Well, that's a shame. That's a shame. Okay, so I'll tell you. Essentially, Mr. Forlini and his team called the Secretary of State, and they said, you know, hey, we'd like to address this because obviously having illegal aliens registered to vote in the state of Michigan, that's a problem. And quite literally, the Secretary of State's office told him, we're not going to touch it. Meaning the state government, which is the arbiter of the law in the state of Michigan, was informed about illegal aliens being registered to vote, and they directly declined to take any action. That is unacceptable. Now, I realize that there is ongoing current legal actions being taken by the Department of Justice to address this directly because the Secretary of State and the Attorney General and the governor don't want to address this problem, because without these dead people, illegals, ghost voters, etc., on the voter rolls in the state of Michigan, Democrats would not be winning elections. However, this is not going to be the case very, very soon. This will be addressed, and we will get these people off the voter rolls. Also, I wish Mr. Forlini all the best in his race for Secretary of State. Rave Daddy says, ICE didn't shoot her. She drove into that bullet. I will get on board with that. 100%. Darla says, WTF is a Chinaman giving advice to the lunatics. Well, he is trying to incite a revolution because he's a commie. Sean Joe, thank you for the can, the cookie, and another cookie. Darla says, I believe it's getting closer to the Insurrection Act. I can get excited about that one. Arrest one officer and the military will roll in like hounds on their trail. Military will put an end to all of this madness. Yes, I think that very soon President Trump is going to have to deploy the Marines in Minnesota. Judy the Lady Pug, thank you for the cookie. Willie Fixit says, like the dimes bag Frank, but the medium can go to a smaller person. And Darla says, WTH is wrong with Bondi. She should arrest brother effer now. Omar out there protesting and inciting violence. Do something about her. So, again, when it comes to Ilhan Omar, she has been referred to the Department of Justice. The Oversight Committee is currently in the process of subpoenaing those records. Tom Homan is also allegedly looking into it. But Pam Bondi is, although she is the Attorney General, it's the purview of U.S. attorneys and a whole host of subordinates to take action on that case. I believe that Ilhan Omar will be dispatched with. But again, I see all of this being done with military precision timing. And I don't think that they are coming to any of these actions willy-nilly or without prior thought and careful consideration. So I think that Ilhan Omar will be addressed very, very soon in the near future. All right. Now, we also have movement in Fulton County. Fulton County has just given some interesting figures when it comes to producing records for the 2020 election. But before we do that, I have one final message from our friends over here on Rumble. You guys, they can freeze your accounts. They can shut off your cards. They can lock you out of your money overnight. Banks do not protect you. They control you. That's why real financial freedom starts with the ownership of your money. So introducing the Rumble Wallet. It's a wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold, real gold on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars. Each one is fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold. It's not an IOU. This is real gold without a bank vault, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can actually be redeemed for physical gold. That is pretty powerful. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using the Rumble Wallet. It's peer-to-peer, it's secure, and it's fully outside the banking system. Nobody else takes a cut of it. Earlier today, I got donated $53 in Bitcoin through the Rumble Wallet. No permissions, no middlemen, no cancel button. The wallet is yours forever. You can go to wallet.rumble.com. You can use the QR code on screen, or you can get it directly from the App Store on your phone. Thank you so much to Rumble and Rumble Wallet. All right, so Fulton County. Last month, Judge Robert McBurney ruled that the Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections must be required to comply with the subpoena from the Georgia State Election Board that seeks to access physical records from the 2020 election. We've talked about this before. Judge McBurney required that the BRE submit a proposal outlining the costs to process the documents that were requested by the subpoena. Well, on January 7th, the Director of Registrations, Nadine Williams, filed that proposal, and they note that the Director of Registrations and Elections would have to search through 700 or more boxes of 2020 election materials. The records would include copies of the opening and closing scanner tapes for each ballot scanner used. It would also seek the poll pad recap sheets for each precinct, the absentee ballot recap sheets, the numbered list of voters and return sheets, chain of custody forms, which we know don't exist, and related reconciliation reports, documents reflecting the security seals required for storage and transportation, also not likely to exist, daily recap sheets prepared at the end of each day for advance in-person polling place scanners, and digitized copies of the absentee ballot oath envelopes. So the proposal estimates it would take 15 weeks of work with one supervisor and 15 temporary workers. They would be working 40-hour weeks, costing $281,800 among a series of other costs, like $43,500 to copy these absentee ballot envelopes. So in total, they estimate it would cost the Georgia Election Board $435,510. Now, the Georgia State Election Board has supervisory authority over elections throughout the entire state. That includes ensuring uniformity, legality, and the integrity of election practices. But they only have the right if they pay that nearly $500,000 to the county. Despite the numerous failures and admissions of violations of code and law that Fulton County has admitted on numerous occasions, everything that we know about the 2020 election says that it stinks. So, unfortunately, the only way they're going to get it is if they pay. That is quite incredible. Now, the Georgia Secretary of State's office on numerous occasions has claimed that in the 2020 election, they had the cleanest voter rolls in the country back in 2020. Well, Jason Frazier, who is a Georgia election activist, compared a voter roll from 2020 with another one that he just received this month. Funny thing, Jason found that of the people still registered in both data sets, 7,767 had changed their year of birth. Isn't that interesting? So then, of course, the obvious question is, did they have clean voter rolls back in 2020, or are they clean now because they went through and they changed all those years of birth? He says it's kind of like cleaning a chicken coop with a napkin. It stunk before and it still stinks after. How did they check for citizenship if they didn't verify their birth date when they voted in 2020? This is likely why the Secretary of State is refusing to share election data with Harmeet Dillon and the Civil Rights Division. Fun fact, he says, 25% of these changing birth dates occurred in Fulton County, Georgia. Isn't that interesting? Look at this. In 2020, Warren McNair was listed as being born in 1962, but then they changed his birth date to 1992. In 2026. That's just one such instance. You've got many instances of birth dates being 20, 30 years or more off. Absolutely incredible. All right, you guys, we are going to call it there. I've got to go eat dinner. I am starving. I hope that you guys had a wonderful day. Thank you for being here with me. Final thank yous over here on Pilled. Thank you to Mighty Patriot for the shades, Kelbell5 for the cookie, and Trump1 for the cookie as well. All right, you guys, I'm going to pass out these gold pills, and then we're going to get on with it. Don't forget about the final sponsors of the program, all listed in the links of the video below. First of all, my friends over at TamaracGarden.com. I got some more goodies from them. This looks to be some herbal salve for pain and inflammation called Inflame Me Not, and then also an herbal salve for tension headaches and tight muscles called Loosen Up, in addition to the stuff that I've been taking, the Pain Me Not, which is general pain support, and then No More Sore, which is for general aches and discomfort. My back is feeling much, much better taking their herbal remedies. They've also got a whole host of other products. But when you go there, use the code RP78 for a special deal. Also, my friend Jessica over at GoAllGood.com. Use that code RP78 for a discount and to support the program here. They've got a lot of tallow-based products. Tallow is a premium ingredient and it's natural. So, of course, you are going to be supporting an American business and also supporting this program as well. They also have great products all across the board. And also my friends over at onenessdrops.com/redpill78. When you use that code RP78, you're going to save 15% off of all of their products, including their chlorine dioxide water purification kits, their mullein extract, the soursop extract, also their DMSO, which I am using multiple times a day, and that is really helping out with the pain. And, of course, Mike Lindell at mypillow.com. He's running for governor of Minnesota. He is the top tier candidate right now. He's the man to beat in Minnesota. Use code RP78 to save up to 80% off of Mike Lindell's amazing American-made products. And also my friend Jordan over at consciousstrength.net. Use code RP78 to save 10% off of everything he has over there. They've got Methylene Blue. That's where I got my Methylene Blue. Their Sheila Jeet gummies. Their collagen, electrolytes, green energy, vitamin C, their parasite blend for pure parasite cleansing, and a whole bunch of other things as well. All right, you guys, good luck, God bless, and I will see you tomorrow right here at 5 p.m. for another episode of Red Pill News Live. Peace. Just got a request from John Thune via text message to send money, and I just put it on the naughty list. Spam, reported as spam. ZBM says, just ordered ivermectin and fenbendazole for my hubby. He's been down for a week, and today he couldn't even get out of bed. What one should he use, and how do I dose it? So it's based on weight, and ivermectin and fenbendazole are both antivirals. So, I mean, you've got them both. I would probably use them both. Also, if you guys need to order ivermectin and fenbendazole, you can also find my source for that in the description as well at farmeasybank.com. You use code REDPILL78. You get 20% off a purchase of $100. They have both ivermectin and fenbendazole there. But yeah, it's going to depend on your husband's weight. So I would just do a Google search for ivermectin and fenbendazole dosing for an adult man of such and such a pounds. But it also depends on the form that you're getting. If they're pastes, if you're getting them in pills, if you're getting them in the powdered form. So you'll need to do some combining of search terms there. But all the information is out there on the internet. Also, you guys, if you do have a cancer diagnosis and you want to check out the shows that I've done in regards to cancer treatments and other naturopathic and homeopathic treatments, you can go to my Rumble channel, rumble.com/redpill78. When you go there on the web, you just go to the playlists section, and I have a playlist specifically for this. You can go there and you can look at all the shows. There's a whole bunch of links directly to the people that I interviewed there. You can also go check out Joe Tippin's website at mycancerstory.rocks, and you will see his dosing protocol there for cancer and other things. But just to take it for, being sick, that's different. You'll have to check around online for that. All right, you guys, thanks again. Don't forget to hit the like button, the red pill, thumbs up, whatever it might be. Appreciate you. Also, I'm sending you guys over to Brad and Abby. Or, no, I guess maybe, yeah, Brad and Abby. There we go.